we go. Um, there we is. All right, we are up and running. Anyone who is people will start trickling in. So we have people waiting. Anyone hearing us now? We are starting. Yes, again, everyone. Very different from the old Blog Talk Radio days. I don't have opening intro music or anything like that, so it kind of throws me off my game a little.
Well, you can have intro music. If you have intro music,
no,
you'll get.
You can't have
YouTube will be all over you.
Right, you can't have that. So anyway, we're getting started, everyone, and just pretend the music is there, and the old Repo Man music. I'm going to load some other stuff hip here. Anyone who is here or is listening out there, I don't see some people waiting. I don't know. It takes a while with this thing. We're showing some people in there. If you're in there, everyone, hello. We will get to you. As soon as I can see what's going on, say hi. Because this is different from the old Blog Talk Radio days where I could see who was in there and whatnot. So anyone who is here, please say hello. Clobberin Time, issue number. Now we had to change to Clobberin Times. So we're Clobberin Times, and then we're issue number 8. Actually, number 708. Moved over from Blog Talk Radio. And RR, there you are. I knew you'd be here. Fantastic. My new friend RR. I mean, I've made some new friends here in my brief stay at YouTube. The short time I have been here.
You have friends? You must have changed your deodorant.
No. You're not allowed to use that one since I'm the watchman. I'm the watcher. So I use that on you. It doesn't work the other way around.
Come on.
And what is deodorant? Oh,
come on. I thought you would be proud.
I am proud.
I thought you would be proud of me.
I'm a proud
being able to quote the Bible.
Yes, well done. Quoter of things. No, very good, sir. Anyway, where was I?
That's right.
I have no idea.
You were telling us about the numbering that you have to keep the numbering from Blog Talk Radio.
Let's see. Are we? Let me do a sound check. Hang on a second.
Sure, you do that.
Okay, there we go. Got that out of the way. That's one of the great things about being here. Michael Dodd, hello there. Hello. I can do my own sound checking now. BTR couldn't do it if I didn't have someone else helping with that. So that's great. I want to thank everyone who joined us yesterday. Again, anyone hearing this later on the feeds, as I used to call it, but now later on the downloads. Thank you all those who were here to the great gentleman known as the Fandom Minister, known as the Problem Being. He, of course, was magnificent, and by now my new friend, and he and I will be doing more shows like that. We had a great time, like about 3 hours 10 minutes just talking Blake 7, and Blake 7, like a lot of topics, especially with me, is something I could talk about for years. So we barely scratched the surface. In fact, eventually we might have to start doing episodes.
This I've been a witness to. I knew nothing about Blake 7, and then one time I asked you about it, or you mentioned it, and we started talking about it, and you had a tape with like all the good scenes from Avon, and that was kind of like my introduction to Blake 7.
Yes. But it was called Avon, the Man, the Myth, the Bastard, and I did talk about that yesterday.
I do remember that.
And eventually,
I do remember that.
Eventually, Problem Being and I will, we hope, start doing some Blake 7 episodes where we maybe actually start the series like a lot of people do. We'll watch them one by one and comment on each episode. It could happen. But today, of course, we are going to be talking about what, in my opinion, is, without a doubt, one of the greatest superhero genre comics ever written, especially in terms of writing, in my opinion. And that is, of course, full title, Kurt Busiek's Astro City. This is the 25th anniversary. I can remember, it's weird because, I don't have to tell you how bad my memory is. I complain about it enough, and it's terrible. Unlike yours, which is excellent, sure. Batman. You have a Batman memory. I don't.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
But I remember where I was when I bought the first issue of Astro City. I, of course...
Yes.
You might have been with me. I don't know. We were at a comic shop. I knew it was a comic shop in Baton Rouge, which I won't name here.
No.
Yeah, it was a Baton Rouge. But you may remember differently.
Let me tell you, got it in the U.S. But if you remember correctly, by that time when that comic book came out, I was in Cancun because I am, of course, from Mexico
Okay, you
City.
weren't with me then.
Well, actually, from Mexico. I
Gotcha.
wasn't with you. You called me specifically to tell me what an amazing comic you had just read, how much you loved it, and that I had to get it.
Mm.
Now, the thing is, I said, oh, really? You know, I really enjoyed Marvels, but I wasn't too sure of this because these are heroes that I didn't know. Plus, I had a thing against Image comic books just in general.
Sure.
Not because every Image comic book is bad, because it wasn't. But just the first few Image comic books that came out during the 90s by the founders of Image, they were so awful.
They were terrible.
In fact, if you remember, you and I bonded on how awful The Pit was. If you remember,
I remember. Yeah, Dale Keown.
Yes. Great art, horrible comic. But that was our first conversation when you said you read that piece of crap. I'm like, yeah, I do. It's the first issue. Come on, give me a second. But then, of course, I opened my eyes and all those comic books were awful. So I didn't want to get Astro City. And you said you have to get it. So what I did, because I was in Mexico, I asked you to put it on my on my subscription at the comic book shop that we used to go to, and you did it because you're such a good friend. And then, of course, when I finally went to the U.S., I think the first 6 issues came out. The first miniseries, Life in the Big City, the one that you have right now. I read the first issue, which of course is one of my all-time favorite issues of Astro City and all-time favorite comic books of all time.
It's brilliant.
That it's what's it? Dream of Flying? No.
Dreams.
What was it?
In Dreams.
In Dreams. Yeah. I Dream of Flying. That's from Miracle Man. But yeah,
True.
in Dreams, it's such a wonderful comic. It's just perfect. It encapsulates what the stories are going to be about.
Yeah.
It introduces you to the world. And the best thing about it is a lot of people, I think, look at Astro City and look at the characters' designs and think the character designs aren't as dynamic or as cool as some of the stuff that Image was producing, or some of the Marvel heroes and the DC heroes. Well, the hero designs are just incredibly classic, and they fit this world perfectly, which is something that has to be said. And the most important thing is it doesn't really matter the powers, the adventures, the villains they fight. What matters is the lives they live. That I think is the most important part of Astro City. The issues that really stay with you don't really deal with heroes versus villain like most DC or Marvel comic books. It's about the personal lives of these heroes, how they live their lives, their personal life, their private lives. It's basically kind of like what Chris Claremont did with the X-Men, like plus 5,000, or what they did with Peter Parker for a while. They would just issues of Peter Parker, him just whining about not having money to pay for, Aunt May's medicine and stuff like that. But this is like multiplied times 1,000,000, but it's so much more interesting. I mean, and not only do they stay with the heroes, you see how those heroes have an impact on the world around them. So just the first miniseries is perfection. It's just pure perfection. And the first issue just opens so strong. And then the last issue, which is the date between the Samaritan and Winged Victory, is just
yeah. Well, look, it's amazing. All I can remember is In Dreams, of course. After that one, I gotta tell you, I was again, and as I was going to say at the beginning, it was a no-brainer for me to pick up this book because I loved Marvel so much. And you have the Alex Ross covers that we've been seeing a little bit of it in the posters and things like that. But I didn't realize at the time that until I looked at maybe some stuff not too long before it came out that it was not going to be, the interior would not be by Alex Ross, as Marvel's was. Nevertheless, it was, again, it didn't really matter that much. So it was, as far as, there was no question that I was going to pick it up on strength of Marvel's. I mean,
yeah.
There was no question about it. And when I got it, I like Brent Anderson already. I think he was really good on the Kazar series. You say Kazar or Kazar? I would say Kazar, but
I always say Kazar.
But this Kazar, which was an excellent series. It was actually a direct sales, one of the early direct sales books for Marvel that he did.
Yeah,
Bruce Jones and Brent Anderson. That was a good run. And then there was a book called Somerset Home. So I liked Anderson. He did some other things. So I thought, well, it's not, the insides are not going to be by Alex Ross, but this works. This is really good stuff. And, I got it, but I did not know what to expect. I mean, I just didn't, because although later, we'll talk about this later, by the way, Busiek went on to use, various types of narratives to tell his story, such as the man on the street type narrative that he used so well. And it was similar to Marvel's, although Marvel's was about from the perspective of one guy, but it was just Phil Sheldon. The first issue is from the perspective of the superhero of Samaritan, nudge nudge, wink wink, Superman. And I believe why this book is so brilliant, and why Astro City, I mean, we'll go touch on it a lot lately, why Astro City was always brilliant, is because as much as I and you and many love Watchmen is about deconstruction. Watchmen is a deconstruction of the superhero myth. Fine, by the way, great. But that's what it is. And a lot of comics, of course, tried to follow suit with that, try to do it. Well, Astro City...
And they failed miserably, most of them.
Miserably. Astro City never had to do that, and it never did that. Astro City was not deconstruction. It was the use of various sort of a hodgepodge or amalgamations of various genres, including superheroes and including a lot of other fantasy pulp genres, all piled into one, and the use of archetypes from all your most famous established superheroes, some very close to knockoff types, some of them were split up amalgams. It was all over the place. With this one, and they started off beautifully with this one, Superman, it's pretty much his Superman, and it gave us a day in the life of Superman the way it would be. So in a sense, there's a Watchmen vibe, because it is, I hate using the word, but sometimes it works, realistic. And yet it's a ridiculous fantasy concept that he's doing ridiculous Superman type things in a ridiculous Superman type of reality, quote unquote reality, fantasy realm, if you will. And he's making you believe it and feel it. And you're going, oh, good God, yes, that if you were Superman, this is how you would live. This is what your life would be on a daily basis. And he gave you a day in the life of Superman for the first time ever. Yeah. And I love Superman, as many do. And it was, I mean, I was on the floor. I mean, I was knocked over when I got through reading that comic. And I was pretty sure at that point, after I told you how great it was, he's never going to even get near this one again. I mean, wow, are there more of this coming? What is he going to do? And of course, I think he did many times. And this, of course, is like right at the top of my top 2 or 3. We'll talk about all our favorites of my, not only on comics ever made, but of course, Astro City stories. But man, what a high bar he started with. You read that one, and if it doesn't really grab you and make you want to read more Astro City, that's just not the comic for you.
Well, there's 2 things that I need to address that you just mentioned. First, it's you decided to get this comic book because you loved Marvels.
Yes.
Now, with me, I have I don't even want to say love-hate relationship with Marvels, but it's like I liked it, but I didn't love it. Not because it wasn't good. I think it was really, really good. But I'm so obsessed with superheroes, as you can plainly see. I'm so obsessed with superheroes. I'm not so interested in the man on the street point of view, right? Yeah. So thinking Astro City was going to focus solely on that and with heroes that I really didn't care about because I didn't know them, like Samaritan, Winged Victory, or Cracker Jack, Jack in the Box, etc. I just wasn't too sure if it was going to be a comic book for me. Now, I was totally wrong. It's amazing, right? But that's one of the reasons that I didn't like pick it up or put it in my subscription immediately, right? And another thing that you mentioned about the art with Brent Anderson, I think it was good that we only had the character designs by Alex Ross, and of course the covers by Alex Ross, but the interiors were by some other artists who didn't take away anything from the story. Because Alex Ross, when he did Marvels with Kurt Busiek, was just one more artist, but he became a total superstar after he did Marvels, right? If he had done the interiors, I think his superstardom would have taken away a little bit of the attention from the stories and from the heroes, because people would be buying the comic book solely for the art, not so much for the story.
That works,
right? So by having a guy that wasn't a flashy artist, but he was just a solid artist. Like, I don't remember his K-Star stuff, but I do remember his X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills.
Great.
And,
yes. Second Marvel graphic novel. Great book.
The art is great, but it's not flashy. It leaves space for the story. He's a good, solid storyteller. And I think that is exactly what Astro City needed. Two storytellers to tell these intimate, profound, wonderful personal stories, not only involving the heroes, but also involving just the people inside. And of course, in this issue, you focus on this character, but then of course the Confessor, who's one of my favorite characters, because of course he's the Batman of the stories. Focus on
he's a split Batman. It's him and Jack in the Box.
Yeah. Well, I think Jack in the Box is more of a Spider-Man type hero.
So yeah, that's fair enough.
But so you got the Confessor, who's one of my favorite heroes, but it's also focusing on the Dick Grayson sidekick, which is Alter Boy, which of course I love Dick Grayson, and just that story focusing on the hero's point of view was great. And also talking about Jack in the Box. Later, there are 2 issues where Jack in the Box, his wife gets pregnant, and just the heaviness of him, like he took over his father's mantle. What's going to happen to his son? Will he want to be? The new Cracker, the new Jack in the Box? Is he ready to be a father? Is he ready to give up being a hero? What's going to happen in the future? And then you have like 3 different Jack in the Boxes from the future coming back. Just wonderful, wonderful stories. You can go through everything he wrote, and I'm not telling you everything's a diamond, but he has more hits than misses throughout the run, which of course it's the best thing you can. It's the best thing you can say about a writer, because let me tell you something. I've read a lot of Batman comic books in my life, and some of them are just stinkers, even by good writers. And you go, Frank Miller, who's one of my favorite Batman writers. Just his latest Batman stuff is just the worst. It's just horrible.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible.
So,
yeah. Well, no, look. There's the thing.
And please, I'm so sorry that I have a Last Jedi shaker.
Oh, you should be murdered for that. You're dead, man. Look at this, folks. Putting that pollution on this.
I am so sorry.
Dude.
Sorry.
What do you want people to throw up?
I'm so sorry.
Direct your hate.
I bought
him,
it before
folks.
watching the movie.
Oh. Okay.
I bought it before watching the movie. I did not know it was going to be that bad. I'm so sorry.
You could use a Dixie cup.
If J.J. Abrams, if Ryan Johnson won't ask forgiveness for that movie, I'll ask it for having a shaker with that name.
Well, he's not forgiven. Thanks. As Astro City went on, in that first mini series, like I said, after number 1, I'm like, what the hell is he going to do? I mean, I don't even know how he's going to get close to this. Okay. Well, He got pretty damn close with the rest of the series. You had almost right after that when he started with. Remember, was talking about it wasn't always it was always about superheroes, but it was really about a city that they lived in. And so there are many issues of Astro City, many stories that don't focus on the superhero. They focus on people who live there. And like you were saying that you're more into superheroes, I am too. Oh, we got a shout out going. I got to give a shout out again. Make sure. By the way, Trent Lou, hello. I don't know who that is exactly, but hello. Thank you for being here. And we have a beautiful woman amongst us. So straighten up, and fix your tie, man. Yeah. The beautiful Wonder Woman. She is in the house. If you see there, Tony L. Everyone. So, all right, everyone. You have to start looking good now. Yeah. So when they first see you, you're gonna get picked on for Last Jedi for the rest of your life now. You're Ryan Johnson. You're Ruin Johnson.
I am not. I am so sorry. I hated the movie. If that's any consolation.
I'm a good friend. Problem being is here. Problem being. All right. Great to see you. But yes, the beautiful Wonder Woman is in the house. My friend Tony. She is Wonder Woman to me, folks, and I love her. She's beautiful. And you were all blessed to have a lovely lady here. A good friend, Problem Being, who joined me yesterday for our Blake 7 show. Thank you so much. Who's the co-host? This is well, I did introduce him earlier, but maybe I didn't. See, I'm way off my rhythm because again, this is not Blog Talk Radio. Don't I always? Yeah, that's not true. I usually announce you.
In Blog Talk, you would say a few nice things about me, but now you of course did not.
All right, well here we go, everyone.
You just said you have a good memory. You said that I had a good memory. That's pretty.
Thank you, Wonder Woman. 22 minutes in, we're going to announce this. We're going to announce this jackass. I mean, this friend of mine. This is, of course, everyone. I want you to meet my very dear friend, Carlos. He is, without question, the Brainiac, the Luther Brainiac team, even of comics.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time. I brag about you Jago. All the time I tell people when I say this. I said, this some bitch could tell you everything that happened in a comic book that you read in 1982. Not that he's old or anything.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, he could do it all. Yesterday when my buddy Problem Being and I were doing our Blake 7 show, I went in with complete confidence because I watched it so much, even with my garbage memory. When there's things like Star Trek, Blake 7, Doctor Who, some things like that, I never have to worry. I'm usually going to I know all the episodes backwards and forwards. When it comes to comics, there's some of these Astro Cities that I have not read in a while. And they stick with me. They're still in my heart, my soul. And I remember, and when you go, did you remember that one? Oh yeah. And I can I talk about it at the depth that I can at Blake 7 episode? I don't know. But I'm going, because these are so good, we're going to be talking about how good it is and let people make up their mind if they want to go out and read them. We don't want to spoiler them up. Just like yesterday, we were doing that with Blake 7. We weren't really spoilering it that much. We were talking about the show. And obviously, if we do, like, for example, if you and I wanted to do an episode where we were to talk about Astro City #1 in Dreams, we would tell everyone, look, we're going to go through it all. And we're going to, if you haven't read it yet, we're going to break it all down. We're not doing that here. But with my memory,
well, it's to me at least, I think it's hard to sell people in certain comic books if you don't spoil a little bit of it. So the one thing that I have to say is this is the 25th anniversary of Astro City. If you have not read these books, shame on you. You should have them spoiled. That's the only thing I have to tell you. They are so good. They are so good. And I don't know why people haven't people read them in droves. I think the biggest problem was that Kurt Busiek wanted these books to have the most the highest, if you will, how can I say this? Just be the best things that he's ever written. He didn't mind so much having so stories on Avengers or on Iron Man, but he wanted these to be the best things that he ever wrote. And the problem was there were just a lot of just months and months and months with no new issues. Like he would come out with like 4 issues or 6 issues, and then you would have just a desert, just 5 months, 6 months, a year with no new issues. I remember one of my favorite sagas, my favorite epics, if you will, was when he was this guy. What was it? A Steel Jacket. Just the whole run with Steel Jacket.
Yes, Steel Jacket.
Steel Jack. Yeah, there was like, you get 2 issues, and then 5 months with no new issues. You get 1 issue, another 5 months with no issues, another issue, and they were great. They were fantastic, but there were so many spots where people would just say, "Is this even coming out? Is it canceled?" And people would just stop buying it. That's the same thing that happened with the Dark Age. It took so long for it to come out, just because they were like, it was like three parts in 4 issue
right. There were two miniseries.
It took forever. It took like 5 years.
Right. Well, see, there's the thing you're talking about.
No, there were like 3 miniseries. Right?
Well, remember, yes, and again, everyone, there's the thing. If you are interested in this comic at all, the good thing is they're all compiled into trades and hardcovers. And the first 6-issue miniseries, it didn't take too long to come out. In around 2000-ish, when they started, excuse me, around 1996-ish, after this was done, they started the ongoing, the ongoing series that you were just mentioning, which was brilliant and had Steel Jacket and all those other great stories. We'll touch on that. This is from around 1996 to past 2000. There was 22 issues, dude. 22.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no math expert, but it's not a lot of comics.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of comics. And for those who wonder, I mean, so anytime you go to the shop and there's an Astro City there, you go, "Oh man, an issue of Astro City came out. It was a treat." Amongst your stack of books from your folder. Wow.
Now, the problem that I had, it was when Astro City was coming out. I was reading so many books because there was so much good stuff coming out that I would have to go, "Oh my God, I have to go back and reread those past issues so it could be caught up, so I could read the new issue." But the thing is, then it would be like 3 more months with the new issues. I'm like, "Oh my God." One of the good things about that is that even though he had a lot of more multi-part stories, he had a lot of single issues. And let me tell you something. I usually like multi-part stories, but I loved his single issues because I could just read it and be done with it and not have to wait like 3 months for the sequel to come out or the next issue to come out. So that's the one great thing about this issue.
Well, one of the things that was going on back then also was Kurt Busiek, of course. I got to meet him right after he did Marvels at a con in Dallas in '94, and at that point he had after he did Astro City and he'd already done Marvels. He was doing a book that we won't go too far into. I'm just going to mention it. That was great, called Untold Tales of Spider-Man. So he was becoming in demand. And so around that time, he started getting jobs from the big companies. Remember when the big comic companies like Marvel and DC actually sold comics? Yeah, you remember those? When they made comic books for everybody? Yeah, you might not remember. But anyway.
I remember.
You remember it, but you got to be old.
What I do remember, let me tell you something. What I do remember, and I remember fondly, is when you could read every issue that Marvel published in a month. And out of, I don't know, let's say 50 comics that I would buy from Marvel, 5 were bad and everything else was marvelous. Same thing with DC. You could buy 30 comic books that they're publishing a month and only 2 were mediocre.
Well, yeah.
And now,
right.
It's horrible. It's horrible. I'm living a life without reading a new Batman comic book monthly.
That's why we're not.
That's so sad.
That's why we're not going to go into now because we can't. That's the whole 5,000 shows that everyone's doing right now. That's why we're having fun with this great comic because there are no good ones anymore.
Yeah. Oh, that's the issue that I mentioned with Cracker Jack with his
great stuff.
Wife pregnant and the 3 Jack in the Boxes from the future come back. Amazing story. I mean, just 2 issues. two or three issues, just marvelous, marvelous.
Yep. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, and at that time, before he was, or when he was able to start doing the regular series after the miniseries, again,
Yeah.
he was in high demand. He did like a miniseries, a maxi series, Avengers Forever. He took over Avengers with George Perez. He did Thunderbolts around all those different years. And those books were always, again, he had a lot of things on his plate. There was no question about it. Those were bigger
And you mentioned
sellers.
And out of all the issues that you mentioned, Avengers was great, but it had some good points, some bad points. Thunderbolts started out so good, and again, it had some good points, some bad points. But you mentioned the untold tales of Spider-Man.
They were great. Yeah, it was a great
book. Those
book.
were fabulous.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I mean,
fabulous.
He did a great job.
Not one stinker.
Loved
one stinker. And they were great because what he managed to do. Now, I'm not a big Spider-Man fan. I know everybody loves Spider-Man. I am not a big Spider-Man fan. I, of course, identify more with Batman, as you can see. But the thing is, the cool thing about those issues, he was able to structure those issues right in between the Amazing Spider-Man issues that were published. And they fit seamlessly. They were amazing. Those issues just were fantastic. And they were the cheapest thing that Marvel was publishing back then. It was 99 cents. So everybody could get it, and nobody got it. Can you believe that? Nobody got them. And everybody was buying the stuff that was being published in Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, which was the Clone Saga. People were reading the Clone Saga instead of reading Untold Tales.
Great book.
Spider-Man. Oh,
great book.
You see that? Wonder Woman has a very important question.
Yes, Wonder Woman, please ask your question while we're waiting for your question. There we go. All right, there we go. Oh, well, good God. Why the hell is Mike not showing his ugly, stupid face? This isn't cool. It could be some Mike imposter. Well, because
trust me, Wonder Woman, there's no one that annoys me as much as Mike. And I can recognize his voice just like that.
No, yeah, it's definitely me, and I'm not showing my ugly face because, well, that answers his question right there. I have a face made for radio. I'm a radio guy, YouTube. If I looked like this handsome devil right here, Carlos, I would be showing my face all the time. I don't. I'm a fat old man, so I sit behind an avatar of coolness by Alex Ross there with Samaritan, Winged Victory, who is the Wonder Woman of the Astro City, and Confessor, the Batman of Astro City. Thank you very much. But it was an interesting question. Thank you, beautiful woman. Yeah, if you were here, I would put your face on. Yeah, sure. And I love you. She's gonna be pissed off at that answer, by the way.
And I'd just like to say I am not bald nor balding. The only reason I'm wearing a cap is because I've taken to cutting my own hair because of all this quarantine stuff. And I am not that good at cutting my hair. It is just what's going on down here is no good. So that's why I'm wearing a cap. Just like to get that straight. But no, I am not bald. So you see, I do have hair.
Okay, I'm showing my face. Look, I'm showing my face. You happy?
Who's that?
I'm showing my face.
I don't recognize that. That's Avon. Who's that? I don't recognize.
That's the great Paul Darrow. It's Avon.
So small.
There you go, Wonder Woman, just for you. I'm showing my face.
Small.
Is it? Oh.
Well.
Anyway. Let's see. Well, like I was saying about what are you looking for? What are you looking for?
Well, if I need an avatar, let me see.
You don't have to. You can. There you go. Okay, we all know Carlos's big fear. Well, there you go. She said we all know your big fear. There you go. Batman the animated series. Is that the black and white one? Yeah, no.
You have an avatar. You have an avatar. I have an avatar.
There you go. I like it.
The animated series Batman. That is the Batman made to perfection. That is the perfect Batman to me.
Well,
Paul Dini and Bruce Timm did amazing things.
Wonder Woman says we all know your fear, your big fear now, going bald apparently. Eastland Burkholder, thank you for being here. And by the way, Paulie, who popped in, Latino Slant, who popped in, thank you for jumping in, buddy, if you're still there.
Actually, my big fear is not being bald. It's actually being fat. That's because my dad was balding and fat, and I am his clone. So let me tell you, that's my biggest fear.
Well, there you go. When he has a lot of
Mike knows the entire story of my
yes,
big fear.
yes, Mr. Rimmer. Arnold Judas Rimmer. Anyway, well, yes, yeah, good point. Eastland Merkel said, "Did he really say who is Avon?" Yeah, don't worry, I'll kill him for it later. So at that point, when the regular series had gotten going, this is not look. By the way, when I retweeted it, or when I tweeted this out earlier, I would like to say I forgot to mention this earlier. Someone had I hashtagged it on Twitter that I was doing this show tonight, and of course the Astro City hashtag got on, and Mr. Kurt Busiek himself retweeted it, and I even wrote about him thanking him for it. He liked the tweet, so I thought that was very nice of him, and I do appreciate it very much, Mr. Busiek. If you do happen to hear this, I love your book, and thank you for that. I wanted to get that out there because I forgot about it. But when that book got going, and this is not a knock of Kurt, I don't know Kurt, if I may call you Kurt. At that time, it was difficult for him. When you have that many irons in the fire, I understand it, and it was his baby. He owns this book, or does he? I guess he co-owns it with Ross and Anderson, or what have you, whatever it is. I could be wrong about that. Nevertheless, it's his book. It says Kurt Busiek's Astro City. It's his book, and he was, writing Avengers and again Thunderbolts, Untold Tales, and other things, and that was fine. And I heard there were times when he had some health issues here and there, and he was not able to give it his all sometimes. And I think it showed that he really cared about this project. It proved it with the quality. It was brilliant. So the releasings were, to put it mildly, sporadic, but always worth it. Once the series got going, but before it did, excuse me, I'm going to go into the middle of it a little bit, because I remember you were in the States when probably my favorite Astro City story came out, or that I first read it, excuse me, but probably in my top 5 all-time favorite comic book stories that I've ever read. Now, there was a magazine, I'm sure some of you remember, a turd magazine called Wizard. Geez, Mike, where do you find them? She said, where do you find them? Yeah, exactly. Carlos, you froze up. You still there? We've lost R2. Let's see here.
There we go.
Okay, you're back. It happens.
Yeah.
The
thing is, I have 2 modems at home, and it's connected to the other modem, and that's why I was losing you, so I had to move the new modem. I just want to say one thing really quick.
Right.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Wonder Woman had another question, and she says, "Geez, Mike, where do you find them?" And it's really a really easy answer: comic book shops.
They're all comic book. Everyone comic shops.
Yes, that's where we found each other.
Well, what I was setting up was, again, I'm going to talk a little bit first, because this was actually before the regular series of Astro City got started, after the miniseries, and I believe you were in the States at the time. I'm sure you'll correct me if you weren't, but let me just set it up. There was a magazine, everyone, I'm sure you all remember if you read comics back then, called Wizard. Yuck.
That was the most horrible comic book magazine ever.
Garbage.
But like you've always said, much like a clock that is broken, told the right and correct time once or twice a day.
Right. Well,
so as bad as Wizard was, they had some good stuff. Little tiny stuff, but some good stuff. Well,
anyway, Wizard had, and again, I don't know all exactly why they were doing this. It turns out after, I believe this was a while after this book was out. I think it was after all. I mean, even though this came out before, I learned that there was another Astro City book in addition to the miniseries, which was called Astro City 1/2.
That came after the miniseries,
right? But it was, it was done. I don't know if it was. Yeah, it was after it, but it was like but it was not on shelves. It was offered through Wizard first.
It was offered through Wizard. We had to
So-
send. You have to buy Wizard, send out a coupon,
Right.
and a few dollars, and then they would send you the book back. A bunch of comic book shops
Okay.
bought them extra to sell them at the shop for exorbitant amount of money. And of course, I, like an idiot, bought it for $20, and you got it for 12. I hate you, by the way, in PS.
Well, anyway,
Because we went to the first shop, and I just couldn't wait, so I got it for 20. Then we went to another shop, and they had it for 12. You were laughing at me all
I
the way
remember
back
that
to your
shit.
house.
Jesus, I don't remember that at all.
I do, because
God
you were
damn.
making fun of me. You were making fun of me the whole day.
Well, everyone, I want you to know that's not. I don't make fun of people. I'm not mean to him. I was never mean to him at all.
I hate you.
You make it sound like I was mean to you back then or something.
Well, yeah.
Like I was a mean person to you or something.
Was that not clear? Was that not clear?
Ask anyone. Look, everyone, he's lying his ass off. I was never mean to him at all. Especially not about something like that. Would I rub it in and show it in your
You
face?
did.
I don't do that sort of thing.
Every day.
I have no memory of that at all.
Every time you talked about Wizard Half or said how great that issue was one of the best issues ever.
Yeah,
it's kind of like it's just the entire Crisis in Infinite Earths told in, like, I don't know, 12 pages. It's amazing. And just every time you would say, "Oh, and by the way, I only got it for 12," not like this idiot who got it for 20. It's like every time.
I think you're thinking of somebody else, probably.
No, I'm not.
That sounds very insensitive, and I don't do that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Insensitive.
Well, Astro City 1/2, everyone,
Sure.
was, in my opinion, it's in my top 5 all-time favorite comic book stories of all. I loved In Dreams is my second favorite Astro City story. The Nearness of You, which was this book we're speaking of, Astro City 1/2.
I sent you the cover. Why didn't you put it? When did you put it on?
I got it.
There.
Yeah, I got
Beautiful.
it. So,
Beautiful.
actually, this is the cover that was done later. There was also one with a Brent Anderson cover that I had.
Yeah, the thing is
that I got for $12, I believe.
Yeah, fast. Yes, the original cover, the Brent Anderson cover, that was made for Wizard, and Busiek did not have the right to publish or to republish it, right?
That's a great
and sell it on comic book stores for a year. Like Wizard had the exclusive rights to that comic book for a year, right? After that year passed, then he was able to publish it, and I was able to get this one because even though I had the original version, I needed as many versions as possible. Because when you love a comic book so much, you, for some stupid reason, you just want to have them all.
You gotta have them all.
But not sell them or anything, just to have them because you enjoy it so much, you know.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, I did not. I just love this comic book. As good as the miniseries was, this single issue was perfect. And the thing is, the only superpowered character that's in this comic book is the Hangman, which you're using as an avatar. And he's such an interesting character. He's shrouded in mystery. But then makes him
sort of the Spectre, the Phantom Stranger. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes him even more interesting. Yeah, I do. I would think he's more like the Phantom Stranger, but he appears out of nowhere, helps somebody out, and just leaves. Well, as opposed to the Spectre is more of an angel of vengeance, and the Phantom Stranger is more of an angel of mercy, trying to help people out. And in fact, one of his first appearances was, I think, in the 3rd issue of the miniseries, or I remember, I think the 3rd or 4th issue of the miniseries, and he just there's this like haunted hill where like all the supernatural beings
Shadow Hill.
There you go. And there's this lady that lives there, and she's thinking about moving into the city. And the thing is, she always sees the Hangman flying by, and the Hangman never even looks at her. But one day, he turns his face and looks at her, and she knows something bad is going to happen to her. And just the dread she has the entire issue, knowing that something bad may happen during the day.
Yeah, it's
And
just amazing.
it's a wonderful comic book because there's a lot of suspense in that entire comic book. It's kind of like totally suspenseful. And then when something bad is going to happen to her, even though she knows, like, she has all these talismans that can help protect her, but they only do that in Shadow Hill. So she does not move to the city. She stays in Shadow Hill because it's the place she knows, the place that she can control. And that was such an interesting issue, because usually what writers do, they present a conflict with the character, and at the end of that issue, she would decide to move to the city, to get a better job, to stay away from her parents, to stay away from her roots. But instead, in that issue, she decides to stay in Shadow Hill. It's such a wonderful, he understood just characters. He made every character interesting and memorable. Wonderful.
Well, I want to talk about. Well, I'm not going to give too much away on this story, everyone, because it should be read. I mean, and it should be discovered. This cover aggravates me because it's not an homage. I just used it because it was the most available. It has DC Comics on it. I mean, it was done later. DC did not make this comic. Just to let you know, that was them later when they owned the imprint. So it pisses me off, the jackass. This was homage. But anyway, let me get through it. What?
No biggie. It does. I mean, the imprint doesn't matter. The important thing is the story.
Thank you. This story is, if there are any others, again, and you think I would remember, even with my memory, I can't think of some others, but there may be some. If there's any other story that did this to me, I can't think of it. This is the one comic book, my friends, that I've ever read in my life. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Made me cry. It makes me cry every time I read it. I cried reading this comic book at the end of it.
Yeah.
Now I will caveat it this way. This is my top 5 all-time favorite comic book stories. It's my favorite Astro City story. It is. I'll put it to you like this. I will caveat it this way. If you've never really read a comic book in your life, or that much, or you haven't been around that much to read and to understand many of the great superhero tropes that Astro City explores and uses as its narrative on a regular basis. For example, if you never read anything like Crisis on Infinite Earths or anything like that, you'll still get a lot out of it. You could still like it, but it does require some understanding of older comics. Not 100%. You could still, I mean, if you read this, it's a masterpiece, and you could really get a lot out of it. It's gut wrenching, and it's so poignant and so beautiful. This is a beautiful book. And because it is something that is near and dear to my heart, meaning comic books and their tropes, and and all the things that go along with them to make comic books what they are in these silly fantasy realms. This one hits me right in the gut. I mean, it is so sad, it is so beautiful, and it is poignant. And I mean, I can't stress enough how great this comic book is. And that's why I'm not really, other than, I'm not even going to set it up. I'm not even going to go into it. Like you just went into a story there. I don't know if I want to do that. Again, yes, it's old, but I mean, we could.
Well, I think, I'm not saying spoil the ending or anything like that, but just mention what it's about, because just
basically,
people.
Basically,
let me just say one thing. Like, your listeners don't know, but I also have a YouTube show. It's called Comic Mania. I do it here in Mexico.
Tell them how to find it. Well, I mean,
I do it here in Mexico. I started as a radio show. Now, of course, it's still a radio show, but it's also like a YouTube show. And one of the things that I found out, doing the show, is I would talk about a comic book and without wanting to spoil it, and saying, Watchmen is amazing, Miracle Man or Marvel Man, however you want to say, it's amazing. So is Supreme. So is Astro City. So is Avengers by Busiek and Perez. And then one time, a guy who was a listener of my show said, you keep saying they're good, but you don't tell us why. So that's one of the things that I found out.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to do that.
It's not enough to just say it's great. You got to read it.
I understand. I've been doing this 11 years. I know. I've been doing this 11 years.
You have to give a little bit.
I can do that without being too spoiled. I've been doing this for 11 years. I know what you're saying.
Please do. Please do.
All I'm saying is this story is set up in a way that, I mean, you could really give it away pretty easily. But however, this is one of those stories that takes place. It's all about an individual, a normal schmo who lives in Astro City. It's not really about superheroes. And yet, if you live in Astro City, your life is affected by superheroes all over the place. Not just in the city, too, the whole world, the whole universe of Astro City, but in particular if you live there. And this is a story about the effects of the adventures, of the going-ons, the events that are the consequences, the ripples that hit the people after some great cataclysm that the superheroes are dealing with. But pretty much a Crisis on Infinite Earths, if for those of you who know anything about that. And this is about
one
guy.
If you remember Crisis on Infinite Earths, when you get around, I think it was issue 10 or 11, a lot of the characters are living in this new Earth. And they have this idea of like, where do I belong? Like Huntress and Power Girl, their histories are so tied into Earth 2 that in this new Earth, they don't know where to fit in. What is their origin? Who are the parents? Who are the cousins? Where do they come from? And you see a little bit of the ripple effect of this huge battle, of this huge reforming of the universe. But you never saw what happened to the regular Joe on the street. And this story does exactly that.
Yes.
It shows what happens, just like you say. It shows that the heroes saved the universe, but what are the consequences for the little guy? Amazing issue.
Great stuff. It's called The Nearness of You. And I cannot recommend it enough. This book was, of course, reprinted in the second trade, Confessions, at the end of it. So for those, again, if you want to grab it and don't want to pay $20 for it or anything like that.
Shut up. Or actually, you're paying $20, but for a lot of comics.
Because that would be tragic. Yeah, this is like you can get it way. In fact, you can get that whole trade for way cheaper than $20. I just want to throw that out there.
I really do hate you. I mean,
you get a whole lot of stories for less than $20 on Amazon, and including this story will be in there, which some people paid $20 for, whereas you won't be because you're getting a lot. Not just that, but a lot of other stories. And there's Larry Guidry. Hawkman and Hawkgirl really got screwed. Yeah, they really did, actually. Yes, true enough. What's up, Larry?
Oh my God, yes.
Our friend Larry. Did they
Oh
not?
my God.
Man, you ain't kidding, man. You ain't kidding. So anyway, this is a beautiful book. It's a beautiful story.
Yes, wonderful story.
And the only thing that did not happen when this crisis thing happened and wiped certain things out, memories, it did not wipe out the fact that certain people paid $20 for the comic. So we don't know when. The Hanged Man did not come to anybody and take that memory out. I took it out of me. It's interesting. Hanged Man came to me and took the memory of me buying it for $12, which I did not remember at all.
And the sad thing is, I know how you are with me, and I insist on being your friend. See, this is my fault. I can only blame myself. Now, can you do me a favor? There's another issue that I really love. I forget the name of the main character, but I sent you the the issue cover. It's about a bad guy. Let's see.
Steeljack?
It's this issue. Can you see it? Can you put the?
Oh yeah, is that Mock Turtle?
No.
No.
It's not.
Not Mock Turtle. That's the other dude.
The character. It's kind of like a Toy Man type character.
Yes, he's a Toy Man type character. That was a great one.
I forget. Can you put cover there?
I don't have the cover. You'll have to give me the issue number.
I sent it to you.
I can't get it that way. Well, I can. I better get it that way. It'll take me a minute, everyone.
It's number 10. It's number 10 in the regular volume. It's number 10.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there. I'll find it here.
It's just.
You know, one thing good about number 10 is it's a lot smaller number than 20. So,
I really do.
You know,
which
I always thought was very good.
Well, the thing is about that issue, you know, one thing that you guys don't know
There it is.
about me. The one thing that you guys don't know about me is that I hate villains. I love superheroes so much that I just hate villains. I can understand the motivation of certain villains, like
You got to have
Magneto.
villains.
Yeah, I totally understand that. But I understand their motivation. I understand their modus operandi, the reason for being. I understand, like Magneto, Doctor Doom's an amazing villain. Mole Man, of course. Juggernaut, Blob, what's his face? Joker, of course. I understand, but I don't like them. I don't like stories about them. I hate villains. I like heroes. The only time I like the villains is when they become heroes, like Wonder Man or Hawkeye. Or what was that amazing issue? Incorruptible by Mark Waid. He did this kind of with this bad guy who's decides to become a good guy, because the good guy became a bad guy. It's amazing, amazing. Incorruptible, and what was it? What were those issues? It was Incorruptible was the bad guy turning good, and Irredeemable was the good guy turning bad.
Yes.
Mark Waid, amazing. What I loved about this issue.
Go ahead, sorry. I had to put that in there.
Good writer.
We had to put that in there.
I always separate the art from the artist.
Yeah, I know. So, but I still had to do that, though.
Okay. But this issue, number 10, focuses on the villain. And he's just a regular villain in Astro City like many others. And every time he commits a crime, he gets captured, like every other villain. But this time, he commits the perfect crime. The perfect crime. And he gets away with it. But that's not enough. Because he needs the credit. He needs people to know that it was him that did it. And nobody knows. And he's unsatisfied. You're like, isn't it amazing that the villains are so egotistical that they're not satisfied with the money. The money is not what gets them high. What gets them high is being infamous. Not so much the acclaim, but the full opposite of acclaim. Just the infamy of it. The knowing that he got away, and it reminded me. And this is just something from my past that I don't know why I'm even confessing. This happened a long time ago with my first girlfriend. I cheated on her multiple times. This is not good. I'm just talking about ego. I cheated on her multiple times, and I was able to successfully lie to her, right? And convince her that I did not cheat on her. And that was very unsatisfying because I wanted her to know that I got away with it. So, of course, I confessed. She broke up with me. The end. But when I read this issue, it really stuck with me because something very similar happened to me. That I was able to convince someone that I did not do something that I did. And that's the same thing that happens to this character. He gets away with it, and it's just not enough. Amazing issue. Just amazing.
They did amazing things with villains.
It's a single issue. Nothing.
Some of the best ones were. Most of the best ones were single. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the one that you mentioned, that Astro City Half.
One little bitty story.
Not only is it a single issue, I think it has a lesser page count than a regular issue.
It does, if I remember right. Maybe less than 20 pages. Man, I just like. And do you think they're?
I will tell you.
You think there are any $20 bills on all these on this page here? I'm just curious.
I will kill you. I just want you to know this. It's great. I do believe his name, the junk. That's
right.
Man.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. Well, dude, this comic was over 20 years ago. So.
I always try to just give everything.
Yeah, well remembered. So the good news is, if you bought this comic now, it wouldn't cost $20. So I just want to be
shut up. Well,
clear about that.
RR makes a good point. He goes, "What good is the success? What good is the success without someone to be there with it?" Huh?
Yeah,
we're social animals after all. Well,
villains are weird.
How much we are. With this whole antisocial behavior we have to keep up with now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, again, there's so many great issues that were single stories.
Yes.
And again, I think again, all I have to do is like mention one to you. Usually, it'll jog your memory. A lot of the best ones for me were these single stories, these one-offs, and they were about either just some person who lives in Astro City, some schmo. Yes, again, they did focus on a superhero every once in a while, but really, especially throughout the the regular series, they did a lot of stuff like this. This guy, Mock Turtle, they did he was hilarious. That was really good. Looney Leo,
That was
an actual cartoon character that lived, a la Toontown.
That is number 13. If you want to put the cover issue,
I will. And this one,
so
dude,
yes,
look at this.
So good.
This is an actual cartoon being, because there's, and again, I'm gonna go again. This is one of the things I wanted to touch on. One of the things about Astro City that you got to understand, and we talked about it a little bit at the beginning. Watchmen, which we love, is a deconstruction. Watchmen is there to show you, yes, in the real world, this stuff doesn't work. Their costumes wouldn't look like costumes. They would look like Halloween costumes. They would wrinkle. They would look silly. Everything about it, and that's true. But comic books are painted, drawn, colored, and that's okay. And you can still tell compelling, brilliant stories with the silliest of tropes. If you're that great a writer with a series of ideas and idioms, Busiek is that. And he can tell you a captivating, gut-wrenching, and very dramatic, amazing story, and a very emotional story with a cartoon lion walking around in the real world.
Which is, of course, based on Mr. Talkie Tawny.
Yes,
from Fawcett Comic Books. What was it? He's kind of like a supporting character in the old Captain Marvel comic. And you, of course, see a talking, anthropomorphic tiger, and you go, "Man, that's so stupid." But
look at the cover. Yeah, brilliant
with this issue. And in fact, it's one of my favorite issues because, as you well know, second to Batman, my second favorite superhero of all time, his name is Captain Marvel. Now known
not
as Shazam.
He is Captain Marvel, baby.
He's Captain Marvel. And his counterpart in Astro City is named the Gentleman. And he appears in this issue. And he's just as silly as he is in those old Fawcett comic books. Wonderful issue, one of my favorite issues. It's just Kurt Busiek just gets to you. It's gut wrenching. When he wants to, he can get to you, and that's the thing. Like, he can surprise you with like the ending of Thunderbolts, where you think these are whole new superheroes, and it turns out it's just villains dressed as superheroes, or just charm you with the Untold Tales of Spider-Man, or just fill you with all this history of Marvel Comics. You mentioned Avengers Forever, where he focuses on a lot of time travel stories, focuses on Kong and Immortus, and just those issues just were amazing. It's one of my favorite Avengers miniseries, and just tell you like straight superhero tales like he did in Avengers with George Perez. But with Astro City, he just went just above and beyond the Call of Duty, and he would just make you just love these characters, and they would just get to you. And these stories, like you mentioned, they're 20 years later, they stay with you. And this issue, I think I've read once, and it was enough for it to just get to me. Just boom. Don't have to read more than once. Just read it once, it stays with you forever. That is the magic of his stories. I don't know. Do you have another issue that you want to focus on? Because I have a bunch of them.
A bunch. I'm sure we. By the way, like Larry says, Leo, the Gentleman's Talking Tiger counterpart. I mean, it's amazing. And my friend, problem being Captain Marvel, fuck the world. Well, when we say Captain Marvel, we're of course referring to someone that, but for legal reasons, is always referred to as Shazam. But he, of course, is the real deal. He is no Brie Larson. He is the real Captain Marvel. Screw the garbage MCU movie there. So we're talking the real deal there, man. So,
this, of course, has no bearing on anything. But I love Captain Marvel so much that for the most part of my childhood and some of my adolescence.
Same here, man.
Every time it was raining and I heard thunder, I would run outside and yell Shazam just in case.
You never know.
Never happened, but man, I kept on trying. I now keep on trying. How about this issue? I don't know if you remember this issue. This is one of my favorite issues. It's from Astro City Local Heroes. Don't see which. It's number 2. Do you remember this issue?
Oh my God, dude! I was been looking for that one, trying to figure that. Yeah, the Shining Armor. Oh, Jesus Christ, dude! The Lois Lane issue. This is about what a everyone. This is about what a bitch Lois Lane is, and we'll go ahead and just talk about it. What the hell? Because we're not giving away everything, but what the hell? You gotta. Well, let's do it because it's so good.
If you can put on the cover so people can find
I got what issue was that again? I got to find it. I don't have that cover. I was looking for it. See, I was trying to find that one. Local Heroes, right?
I said it's Astro City Local Heroes number 2. I sent it to you.
I can't get it somehow. Can't get him. I can't get him from the messenger for some reason. But
so weird. Oh well, but yeah, it's Astro City Local Heroes number 2. I read it long time ago when it came out. Stuck with me because if you guys remember, if you're old enough to remember, one of the laziest ways to do a Superman story or a Lois Lane story or even a Lana Lang story, it was just basically these girls trying to prove that meek Clark Kent was Superman. Those stories are so stupid, so lame, so unnecessary, and they frame both Lana Lang and Lois Lane as such superficial harpies because they can't love the nerdy Clark Kent. They need the powerful Superman or Superboy. They can't just settle for the nice guy. And so all they're trying to do in these stupid moronic stories is prove, even in Superman 2, Lois Lane throws herself into like, what was it, like a Whitewater Rapids?
Yeah, in the rapids. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
To prove that Clark Kent's Superman. And one of the great things about just what Christopher Reeve, may he rest in peace, what a wonderful actor. He finds a way to save her without revealing who he is, because he's not going to play her little stupid.
Superman always does, yes.
But I remember. I don't know which magazine it was. It was like a Mad Magazine type of comic book where Lois Lane is trying to prove that Clark Kent is Superman.
Yes,
she throws herself off like a window. Okay, she throws herself off a window, and Superman rescues her, and she goes, "Aha! I knew Clark Kent was Superman. Now I can prove it." And then in the next panel, you see Clark Kent back in the Daily Planet building, and
Perry White comes in. Yeah,
he goes, "What happened to Lois?" He goes, "She jumped out the window," which is, of course, that's what you would wish as a kid, because you're reading these stories that are so stupid, which is just these girls, these reporters, because if you remember, by then Lana Lang was an anchor woman.
Yes,
and Lois was a journalist, and all their concern, all their time in those stupid issues is involved with proving that this man is Superman. And this issue focuses on it, and it's just it's so wonderful.
It's brilliant.
It's wonderful
basically.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you have as we've talked earlier, because we've got to give him a little bit of background on this character. Samaritan is, for all hints and purposes, the Astro City's Superman. But to do this Lois Lane story, they used a different character, and go talk about him a little bit. You can now. I'm just going to set that part. You can go ahead and tell us about him.
Sure.
What was his name again? It was a great story.
Shining something or
yeah, Shining. Shining Armor. He was sort of like Superman. But in some ways,
he's a nuclear superhero.
Right. So again, Captain Adam's in there. But
Mhm.
basically, this story, that's Lois Lane. And you can tell them about the story if you want. We just go, we can throw it all out there because it's
Yeah,
so
go
funny.
ahead.
No, I mean, well,
It's like,
basically, go ahead. You there?
just the thing that stuck to me the most is that she feels that he is interested in her, but he will only take her as a girlfriend or as a wife, or treat her as an equal if she is able to discover that, or to prove that he has a secret identity as a meek, I don't know if he was a reporter, but as a meek human being. So all her interests, all her mental abilities are just dedicated to just unmasking him in public. And
Yes.
it becomes a game, just like in those issues. It becomes a game of her trying to prove that he's a superhero, and him finding ways to keep his secret identity secret. And then when she finally does it, he gets really mad at her, really angry at her, and just stops talking to her. And then it really dawns on her that he was not a real human being. He was a being that was created in an atomic explosion. So he didn't know how to move around with humans. So he created this identity to be able to feel human, to feel accepted. He was never trying to challenge her. What he was trying to do was to ask her to help him to be more human. And instead, all she wanted to do was to prove this stupid point. And all she did was push him away, and he left. And he never came back. And it was such a wonderful story, because she was so concentrated in doing one thing that she didn't really listen to him. In the end, that was the thing. She never listened to him. It's it's a beautiful story.
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful story.
Beautiful.
Let's see
And so much funny. Dude, I'll never forget.
That is
one?
his name. Atomicus.
Okay. Again, it had been a while. It's been a
like
long
Captain
time.
Adam
Yes.
Captain Adam type character.
And again, he's only ever been really that I know of in that story. I think he's popped up every now and then a little bit, but I mean, in spots, but no, he's not come back. And that's one of the great things.
After she uncovers his identity, he's so mortified. He just leaves. Like I said, he's I don't even know why I'm talking about this stupid movie. He reminds me of Nuclear Man in Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. He's not a real person. He's created in an atomic explosion. So he doesn't have all this. He doesn't know how to be around humans. So when she reveals his identity, he's so mortified he just leaves. He yells at her like a little kid would yell at a person. Why you do this? And then he leaves, and he never comes back. Wonderful issue. Wonderful.
Again, it's just so amazing the things Busiek came up with, because what he did, and again, this was similar to Alan Moore's best work, and I mean when Alan Moore at his best when he wasn't deconstructing superheroes. In other words, because he did write some brilliant stories that were just within the basic framework of the superhero, such as Superman Annual number 11 for the Man Who Has Everything, his farewell to Superman, the Silver Age Super Bronze Age Superman, whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, a few things, and of course his wonderful Supreme series. So he could do it. Moore could do it all. Busiek never bothered to get into the deconstructive stuff. So to write into that framework, and then come up with so many twists and turns and do things, you bring you into a very familiar setting and then surprise you when you don't think you're going to be surprised because you think you've seen all this before. You go, yeah, that's just Superman or Batman or so. I'm just wearing different clothes with a different name. True. And that concept he just mentioned, like Eagle, that's S.H.I.E.L.D., we know it. Okay, so what? But he manages to do different enough things to come up with ideas and concepts for these characters that you've never seen with any of the older comics. He manages to do new things with old things brilliantly. That's why this comic is so great.
One of the things that really got to me when we were talking about In Dreams, the first story that focuses on Samaritan. Now, we've seen Superman for many years by then. We grew up with Superman. So seeing Superman fly didn't leave any impact on us. Maybe when we saw him for the first time, maybe when we were children and we saw Superman for the first time, we saw the S, we saw the cape, we saw him fly, maybe that resonated with us. But somewhere along the way, we forgot how amazing it would be to fly. The wonderful thing about that issue is that during the whole issue, all Samaritan is doing, or Asa Martin, as his secret identity is, all he's doing is counting how many seconds he's in the air. Because he actually enjoys using the superpowers, because unlike Superboy or Clark Kent, Kal-El, whatever, he was not born with them. He was a regular human, went back to the past, acquired these superpowers, and used them.
Yeah. He's from the future.
From the future, comes back to the past, acquires superpowers, uses them to become a hero, but he didn't grow up with them. He's not accustomed to them. So he enjoys.
Which we don't learn till later. We don't learn that till later, though.
Correct. He enjoys using them, and the thing is, flying is his favorite power, but he can't enjoy it, because the one thing that he found out is he comes from a very apocalyptic future, and he went back to the past to fix one little tiny thing so the future could be fixed. And he goes, well, if this one thing that went wrong could be fixed and it would help the future, I have to make sure that nobody dies, that there's no big accident, that there's no big chaotic event in the past. So instead of enjoying his life, instead of enjoying his powers, all he's doing is saving people constantly. He has just kind of like the weight of the future on his shoulders. So he's not enjoying his powers, and all he's doing is counting seconds, not the minutes, not the hours, the seconds that he's in the air. And at the end of the day, he goes to sleep and he goes, hey, I was able to fly 4 seconds today. That's a lot more than that I've been flying in months. And when he goes to sleep, he dreams of flying. Because of the one power that he really enjoys, and he can't
do it for fun. I mean, he dreams of flying. A guy who can fly, let that sink in for a second. A guy with Superman's powers can't enjoy them for his own fun.
But the thing is, you and I would have never thought of that.
Who'd have ever thought of that?
To us, Superman flying or a superhero flying is so commonplace for us. I mean, just as an example, there was a really horrible comic book by Roger Stern. Well, it wasn't horrible. It was just so mediocre. By Roger Stern, who's a really good writer, called Starman. I don't know if you read it.
You're talking about the one with
Tom. Yeah, it's Will Payton.
Will Payton Starman. Yeah, I know somebody who read it. Yeah, you know somebody who read it too.
Roger Stern wrote it. Tom Lyle drew it. It wasn't horrible. But it was just very mediocre comic book. The thing is, this character acquires powers, and his powers are super strength, invulnerability, flight, and he can throw rays from his hands. And those powers are so commonplace that when I read it, it was just okay, he has new powers. The only thing that impacted me is that he could reshape his face, so he didn't have to wear a mask when he was Starman. He would just rearrange his features when he was Will Payton and when he was Starman. But that was the only superpower that was new or innovative. Everything else was commonplace. And if you look at most of the heroes from the 80s, they all have that set of powers. Vulnerability, super strength, flight, and some kind of ray powers. Look at Carol Danvers. That's her power set. So we would just be not so much cynical, but it was the power of flight was something that was expected of a lot of heroes. Firestorm, he has flight powers. He never mentions flight being something special, and it should be special, because Ron Raymond was just a jock. him being able to fly or rearrange molecules should just blow his mind. He never mentions it. He acquires those powers, and that's it. Next thing, he's fighting supervillains. And that's the one great thing that I can say that always impacted me, and it was just wonderful about Astro City. He was able to look at all these heroes and all these powers with new eyes, and made us as readers see them with new eyes instead of all these eyes that are so accustomed to heroes. That nothing surprises us anymore. We could be surprised. Like this issue, we had read a billion issues of Lois Lane trying to prove Superman is Clark Kent and vice versa. But this is the issue that stuck with me. All those other issues with Lois Lane trying to prove that Superman is Clark Kent, I've totally forgot them. They were not memorable.
This handled it. Well,
amazing.
Brilliant. And here's one I want to talk about now. This is probably going to be in my top 2 or 3 or 4 all-time favorite Astro City stories. Surprise you with it because you'll know about it. But here I'm going to put the picture up there. Yes. Astro City Special, The Eagle and the Mountain, folks. And without going, this is ingenious. And it's so well done. So much so, by the way.
I have
there you go. Excellent. There was there's a young lady. I forget the name of her channel. I would plug it if I could, but I can't remember. Who I watch her videos sometimes. Really, really knows her stuff on comics. Really researches comics very well. She did a great video on this comic. I wish I could remember it because you should see it. She does a great job of breaking it down. But
can I just say one thing before you start?
You got it anyway. So.
Just one quick thing before you mention this girl, because I just want you to know how good my memory is. Just to prove it a little bit. You and I were just saying that we hated Wizard magazine because it was just horrible. It was for moronic fanboy, just the worst, lowest common denominator of comic book reader.
Yeah.
Are we correct? But as I've said before, much like a broken clock, it did tell the right time twice a day. The one good thing that it did, it was promote the hell out of Astro City. We got Brent Anderson and Kurt Busiek to do the half issue, which is amazing. And the first time Infidel made an appearance was in the pages of Wizard magazine. They asked, they were doing a special issue about villains, and they asked Busiek and Alex Ross to come up with the perfect villain, with the perfect counterpart for Samaritan, and they came up with this character. That's the first time I ever saw Infidel was in the pages of Wizard magazine. I did not buy that issue. A friend of mine had it. I looked at it. I said, "Oh, this is interesting." I read about it. I thought it was very interesting. Cut to a few months later, boom, the special came out. But the first time he appeared was in Wizard magazine.
Nice. Yep. Well, go ahead and tell us about the story.
Well, I just thought it was amazing because it's this character again. He gains powers similar to Samaritan, but he's his perfect counterpart on an ideological level. So of course they're fighting all the time. But the good thing is they know their powers are so similar. It's almost impossible for them to beat each other. That every so often they just sit down and
every
talk.
year they have a yearly ritual.
They just sit down
and have dinner, and they talk. They have a dinner,
and I'm like, what?
It's so good. This issue is so brilliant.
They're perfect enemies, but they know they are so powerful. They eventually one will take out the other, but they're civil about it. Just
once a year, they're civil. They have dinner. But what's hilarious about this one, this particular time they have dinner, what the hell? They're in such a hurry. It's McDonald's, basically. It's Samaritan's turn. He just brings some takeout.
Because he can't take time off. He has to save everybody. He can't.
And this issue just basically tells you all about Infidel. It tells you his story and everything. He's so well written, so fleshed out the character. He's a lot Luthor, but he's a lot of other things too. It's just so fascinating. The whole backstory behind this character is good God. I mean, I'm reading this thing, I'm blown away. I'm like, this is at this point, this is a good 10 years or so after the this is around 2005, 6, whatever it was. So Astro City had been around a while, and he was still just doing things to just astonish me. 48-page special, just amazing, brilliant piece of work.
Yeah, and like I said, I hate villains. I've never been a fan of villains, but I really like what they did with this character. I mean, just it was very interesting because he can make all these characters just so wonderful and so full and so rounded. Even the villains are really, really, really interesting. It just I don't know. It just if you have not read this comic book, I mean, what are you doing? You can download everything now. You can
they're
become
cheap.
you can become a member of what Comicology. They probably have every issue of this for 99 cents.
Yeah, they are. There's only
It
then there
was
are, by
not
the
a
way,
waste.
only 111 issues.
It is not a waste of money. One of the things that I, in my radio show, comic book show, Comic Mania, one of the things that I fight a lot against with my listeners is that most of them are newer readers, and they are so involved with everything that is new and different and that has come out in the last 5 years. If it hasn't come out in the last 5 years, they just don't want anything to do with it. Or like they cannot imagine that comic books have been going on since the last part of the 30s. It's just so sad because like they would go, oh, do you recommend this comic book, or do you recommend this comic book, and they're showing me stuff from the New 52 or stuff from the old different Marvel. I'm like, no, I don't recommend it. It's total crap. If you want good stuff, yeah, there's a lot of 80s stuff that is just wonderful. Read that. And they would just look at me with these blank stares. They would, oh, is Maximum Carnage good? I'm like, no, it's awful. But you can read this issue of like The Kid Who Collected Spider-Man. It's just a one single issue and it's beautiful. And they would go like, but there's no Carnage. You go, who cares? Or they were always asking me about these horrible, horrible issues and I'm like, why are you interested in this crap? Why? Or like, I love Grant Morrison. I love me some Grant Morrison. His Animal Man is fantastic. But they would always talk about Final Crisis.
One of the worst comics ever written, by the way.
I just cannot understand anything he's trying to do in that comic.
It's a horrible comic.
Or Batman R.I.P. Like, no, don't read
Terrible.
that.
Terrible.
And I would just say, you would not understand it. He goes, "You think I'm stupid?" I'm like, "No, I don't think you're stupid, but I don't think you know anything about Batman in the 50s, and everything that happens in Batman R.I.P. has to do with 50s comic books. So of course, I know you're not going to understand anything about it. Why don't you read all these detective comic books that what's his face did, that Paul Dini did? They're amazing." And the thing is, at the same time that Paul Dini was doing wonderful stuff in detective comic books, nobody was reading it because everybody was reading the Grant Morrison stuff. And I'm like saying, you're not understanding. Why are you even pretending that you do? Stop reading this stuff. And it was just so sad. And like, I would recommend stuff like Astro City, and people would go, "What is that?" If Jim Lee isn't drawing it, I'm not interested. And right now, I remember the first time I talked about this stupid comic book that's coming out, I think this month or next. I think next month it's coming out. It's called Batman: The Three Jokers. I keep saying that it's the most awful thing that anybody could ever come up with. And people are actually excited for this issue. I mean, come on. Batman is the greatest detective mind in every universe. And even Grant Morrison said this in Batman R.I.P. And he can't it just passed him by that there are three different characters that are going as the Joker. It's moronic in every conceivable way. I of course will read it so I can destroy it. But I know it cannot be. It's impossible for it to be good.
Impossible.
It's possible.
Impossible.
Look, the first family.
This here, everyone, is of course the Fantastic Four. I mean, the first family, the FF of Astro City. I want to talk a little bit about some of the characters because we're gonna go back to some stories in a minute here. Again, because it is important to note about Astro City is, again, as I set up earlier. By the way, and Wonder Woman, if you're here, if you're still here, if you're not, no biggie. But if you are, let me know. I got something for you here to show you. But the characters are, again, all of them represent just about any character that you love that you've read in a Marvel or a DC or even other superhero genre comic book. They're here. They're here. Like, well, there you go. That's true. You tell them, Larry. Tell them to stick to video games. That's pretty much what they do now. Yeah. And there's a Fantastic Four. I also
save their souls, and they don't want to.
One of the things I loved early on, Carlos, was how they some of the characters who were not in it as much, but sort of like you would just beat them, briefly in different parts of different issues of Astro City. You had the Irregulars, were basically the X-Men, but then you had this group called the Jesus Freaks.
That was the crossbreeds.
Yeah, they called them the Jesus Freaks. And they were out there. They were wearing robes, and they were mutants. Like one of them was a lion type, not Looney Lion, but he was kind of like he looked like a real lion. He was mutated. Daniel. His name was Daniel the lion, and they were mutants similar to the Irregulars, more like the Inhumans maybe. But they would go down on the street and preach to people and stuff like that. You had all over Astro City. Every kind of superhero that you can imagine that has ever existed in the comic, including, incidentally, I think Busiek. I don't know this. They're Jesus Freaks. Love them. That's fantastic.
I think it's Noah.
Yeah, Noah, Daniel. It's so fun. And again, you don't see a whole story with them. You just show them, and you're like, oh, that's friggin' cool, man. And he does that a lot. But
they were great in the Confessor storyline.
Yeah, that was basically when they showed them. Yes,
they were amazing.
They're amazing. They're amazing. But you have other characters. That's right now. We're gonna go back to some stories, but we're gonna hit some of the characters a little bit. We've already talked about Samaritan. We've talked about the Confessor, Jack in the Box a little bit.
Before you go too far, I mean, come on.
Why would I want to do that?
Can you put the cover of one of the Confessor issues? I do believe number 6 is one of my favorites of the regular series.
Let's see. I hope you didn't pay $20 for that one.
Oh my God! Shut up! I hate you. No, I did not pay. No, but I do have a story behind the scenes. Mike's bastard story.
Well, I don't think anyone wants to hear a Mike is a bastard story.
Oh, they surely do.
So does anyone want to hear a Mike is a bastard story?
Oh, here it is. Okay.
This asshead, has all these lies about me. Does anyone want to hear I'm a bastard story?
I will not reveal the twist of the story, but there's a slight twist with the character of the Confessor. I will, of course, not reveal what the twist is.
No, well, you can, but I mean, it's always cool.
I won't, because it's really, really good, and it's very obvious, but it's really cool. And when you find out, you go, oh, it was amazing. It was all obvious, but it's amazing. So, of course, I had not read this comic book because I was in Cancun. I was in Mexico. This bastard, of course, was in the United States. He was reading it, and he knew the secret, the twist behind the scenes of the Confessor. So the first time we were on the phone, he goes, oh, by the way, there's something about the Confessor I have to tell you. I don't know if I should tell you, but maybe I should, or I should let you find out, or I should tell you. And it was just hell because there were no digital comic books back then. I had to wait until I went to the United States. I had to wait until I read those comic books. I had to rush through them because every time the clock ticked, this bastard would come out of his room and say, by the way, do you know? Oops, I'm not supposed to tell you.
I don't know who you're talking about, but okay.
You would just, the knowledge of the twist, it's like Let me put it to you this way. For everybody that saw The Sixth Sense, imagine if you had a bastard friend like Mike that saw The Sixth Sense before you saw it. And because of work, you couldn't see it until next weekend. So you had a whole week of this bastard telling you that there was a twist at the end. And he was going to tell you the twist. But maybe he wasn't going to tell you. And he would just kept you like that the whole time. And then you would finally get to see the movie. You would not be able to enjoy the movie because all you would be thinking about would be the twist at the end. So, of course, when the twist at the end gets there, it's not very satisfying because there was a twist at the end. So, because I knew there was a twist to Confessor, I couldn't really enjoy it because the entire time I'm reading this book, I'm like with a magnifying glass, just trying to figure it out before this bastard tells me. So, thank you for ruining one of my favorite issues because it's not only about the Batman of this world. It's not only about Alter Boy, the Dick Grayson Robin of this world. It's also his twist, his version, his homage to the first Kree-Skrull War.
Yes.
That's how fantastic this book is. And I, of course, did not enjoy it because someone was threatening me with revealing something.
Are you saying you were left twisting in the wind?
I will kill you.
Are you saying are you accusing me of twisted behavior?
I'm saying this in front of all your listeners. I will kill you one day. You will die by my hand. I just want you to know.
I don't know who he's talking about, folks. It definitely won't be. Claude will attest that I had nothing to do with any of this. I'm not that kind of person, everyone.
He's worse. He's worse than you. He ruined Batman Forever for me. So
Joel Schumacher did that.
Shut up. I like that movie. The Batman movie.
Rest his soul, by the way. We love Joel Schumacher. Rest his soul. He was a good man. He was just passed on us. He was a good man.
He did some good movies. Lost Boys is one of my favorites.
Well, remember, he also came out and apologized for Batman and Robin. I mean, and no, seriously, how many directors have come out and said, "Look, fans didn't like it. I'm sorry if and that was a good dude, man. But I want you all to know that he's lying. I never did any of that stuff. He just got to.
You don't remember? You did. You don't remember?
I have no memory of any of that. That's all I'm going to tell you.
I remember it all, you bastard.
Astro City characters.
That whole
you don't look senile, but
you ruined that. Another one I have a lot of ones that I could talk about.
He's got all these fake stories about me. That's amazing.
They're all true.
I've never even met him in person.
Anybody that knows you, because I'm not lying. If anything, I'm not even going as far as I could go. Okay. Do you have another good story? Because I have a lot of good stories.
Yeah, but I just want to go do a little bit more about the characters if I can remember where I was.
The crossbreed.
I want to talk about. I was just going to mention a few, though. I was going to go deep in depth. I'm just going to say you have, because it's kind of valid for later, Winged Victory.
Oh, amazing!
Because our lovely friend Wonder Woman, who I don't think she may not be listening now, but Wonder Woman, I love you if you are listening. If not, no big deal. But I love you if you are listening. You're represented in Astro City. She's called Winged Victory.
Yes,
and she's right here, and she is just again. This is so everything about her. I'm not going to go into depth about her. She is totally Wonder Woman. But the reason I wanted to mention it is because my friend Tony, who was the most gigantic Wonder Woman fan who ever lived, and that's why I called her Wonder Woman. She is beautiful like Wonder Woman, and she loves Wonder Woman. And we've been friends for well over how much you paid for that comic book. I mean, like of that I can't remember the name of now. I mean, since the 90s. Yeah. So anyway, she's very beautiful, but. One thing she does not like as a Wonder Woman purist, and I respect and agree with her. She hates the Screw 52 crap where Wonder Woman and Superman are kissing and all that crap. She doesn't like that. Now we're not going to
No,
depth into
they're
that. I'm
not
just going to say
supposed to.
she does
They're
not like
not
that.
supposed to. They're not
However,
supposed
right, but however, in Astro City, Samaritan, Superman, Winged Victory, Wonder Woman. There's a wonderful thing in the first miniseries, as we've already touched on. Samaritan is so busy he can never have a life.
Yes.
Winged Victory can. She's not expected to be everywhere all that time. So one of the wonderful things that happens by the time we get to issue number 6, of the miniseries, the final issue, all the honor guard, the Justice League,
Yes.
they
was
really,
talk about that. Yes.
yeah, we can talk about them a little bit, but their friends, the friends of these people, say they really, really feel bad for Samaritan that they can't have a life, and they all, again, they're matchmaking, so they want to get Samaritan and Winged Victory together. So they decide, look, you're going on a date together, you two. You don't have a choice. You're going. We're going to take up the slack for Samaritan. So the heroes like spread themselves paper thin all over the world to give these two a chance to have a date. And issue number 6 is so beautiful. It's so great.
That's I love so many things about this issue, because just as you mentioned in the New 52, or as I like to call it, the
Screw
New 51.
52.
Yeah. I like to call him the New 51 because Kyle Rayner does not deserve to have his own issue of anything.
He's garbage. Screw 52, right? Yes, we agree. We reach.
Now, I do not agree that Superman and Wonder Woman should be together. I think they need to be with human beings because they need to emphasize the human side of them. Like Clark Kent wouldn't want to be with someone that's super. He's a kid from Kansas at heart. He would want to be with a human.
Yeah.
And the same with Wonder Woman. She doesn't need a superior being. She doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. All she needs she needs to fall in love, and she fell in love with Steve Trevor. Maybe it was the first man she saw, but she fell in love with him, and she would not betray him. It was the made so many mistakes. But the thing is, what I love about this is the honor guard is matchmaking, much like a lot of people matchmake when we first see Superman and Wonder Woman, because you go, well, they're the most powerful, so obviously they must have a lot in common. But what I love about this issue is when they get together, they have so many things not in common, and the whole point is that they don't have the same opinion about anything. They don't have the same opinion about protecting people, how to defend the humanity. They don't have the same opinion on how to empower human beings. They're so different, but instead of that driving them away, it makes them closer because they're challenging each other. They're not a perfect fit. They're not a perfect match, but they get to know each other. And the thing is, first they see each other as superheroes, and then they change to their, regular identities, and they see each other as they are. And they get to, in one night, they get to know them. They get to know each other very profoundly. And at the end, they kind of share a kiss, and they go, maybe it could be. But you never know, right?
You never know.
It just goes on forever. And in the latest series, you find out what happens with that first date. But the thing is, instead of just saying, okay, they're going to be a perfect match, he's going to think just like he is, he's going to be the big man, and she's just going to follow him. No, they're their own individual people, and they have different ideas on how to be superheroes, on how to help people, how they gain their powers, what it means for them to be super. It's just wonderful. And of course, during the whole thing, it was great seeing the honor guard, just especially like someone like Crackerjack being really annoyed.
Yes, I will talk about him next.
That because he goes, why do I have to work myself to the bone just so one guy can get lucky? Just amazing. And this wonderful image that you're showing, I love it.
The Trinity. Yeah.
The big DC Trinity of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, represented by the Astro City heroes. the figures actually came out at least for Samaritan and Confessor.
I
And
have them. Yeah,
I'm so mad at myself that I couldn't get them.
I had to go back later and get the Confessor. That wasn't easy. I mean, I got him later.
They're probably really cheap now because nobody wants them. But when they came out, they were really expensive. I was living in Mexico City, plus an actor, and I had no money. So it was either food or comic books.
Yeah, there's so many they should have. I wish they'd done. There's so many I wish they had done. Yeah,
I wish they'd just done these three. I would just be satisfied with these.
It would have nice. But this is, of course, the second Confessor, but we won't blow anything about that. In this, because
it's too good to blow it. It's too good.
Yeah,
to
it's
blow
too
it.
good. But anyway, this is the Trinity.
Ruin my life. Don't ruin.
That's okay. You never had one anyway.
I will kill you.
You act like I've ruined it 20 times, though. Come on. So anyway.
Oh wait. I totally blanked on something, and I just remember. Before we go on, you said something really important. Believe it or not, when you were talking about the Astro City half.
Mm-hmm.
How you said in that issue, we see what happens to just the Joe public, just the consequences of these huge, big fights. And you see how the repercussions on just a regular human and how their lives can be completely changed and become tragic because of it, right? There's this horrible, horrible comic book that is written by Garth Ennis. You remember it? You read it? You actually have it. We use it. We use it to explain to people what a horrible comic book can be.
The prototype.
The prototype of horrible comic book, and it's called Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe. And it focuses on that. These people that have been maimed and hurt by superhero fights hire the Punisher to kill every superhero in the world, or every super being in the world, right? And you said that is so awful because it's this writer, Garth Ennis, who's a very cynical man, making everybody in the Marvel Universe very cynical, just like he is. Instead of these people being glad that there was a superhero to stop the villain, they're not blaming the villain for the destruction. They're blaming both.
Right.
Villain,
and
the hero. And they hire this psycho to kill them. The comic book is moronic. It's stupid. And what I love about this issue that Kurt Busiek wrote, it has a more hopeful message. Because when this guy finds out what happened, instead of blaming the hero or blaming life or blaming destiny, he says, now I know, I can understand, and he finds a way to be happy. And it's a more of a hopeful message.
Later problem being?
Love can conquer all. But just Garth Ennis is just such a horrible. I cannot believe people say that Preacher is a good comic book. It's awful. I've read 6 issues of Preacher, and
everyone loves it. I don't get it. People think it's great. I can't get into it.
Gross. It's vomitous.
Claude likes it. I don't know. Man.
It's like a stupid 8-year-old or 12-year-old wrote it, who's the highest form of comedy is poop jokes. I mean, that's how bad that comic book is. I read the first 6 issues, and I just cannot stand. It's an awful, awful book. I like the art, but the book is awful.
People swear by it. Everyone I know loves it, and I just could never get into it. I'm glad I'm not the only one. But if you like Preacher out there, hey, that's people do. What are you gonna do?
I like serious comic books that have something to say. Animal Man, V for Vendetta,
right?
Watchmen, of course, Miracle Man. These are comic books that, yes, they're very. Even the Doom Patrol by Grant Morrison, they're very serious. They're very weird sometimes. They have a very mature vibe.
Thanks for dropping by. Problem being, appreciate it, buddy. Go ahead.
They're not stupid. Santa by Neil Gaiman. That is a mature book. Preacher is for that 9-year-old that thinks that they pull my finger farting thing is funny. That's the level. That's the level of Preacher.
Yeah, I never could get into it. But look, we're in a minority. Everyone thinks it's so damn cool. I just can't get into it. I never could. But many friends of mine like it. So what are you gonna do?
I don't know.
This is way better.
Yes.
Character. I'm gonna go to Cracker Jack really quick because what we're talking about is, again, this is the Trinity right here. This is, this is Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman right here. They're the Trinity of Astro City. They have other ones. There's a guy called Cracker Jack. I'll find the pic of it in a second.
He'll be the
he's basically Daredevil. But
It's
again, here's the thing about that. Yeah, I got a picture of it. The thing is, he's Daredevil, but the way the same as Superman. I mean, Samaritan is Superman, but he's not. Wing of Victory is Wonder Woman, but not. And Confessor's Batman, but not. This is again a situation where Cracker Jack is Daredevil, but not. He does act a lot like that old Matt Murdock. For those who do not know, before Frank Miller, the first 16 years of Daredevil, he was kind of a fun-loving, happy-go-lucky guy. He and Spider-Man palled. Exactly. He and Spider-Man palled around. He smiled. He was banging Black Widow. Man, doing good. Having some fun there. And
he was banging everything. What are you talking about?
Right, but he shared a comic with Black Widow for a while. And
he had a bunch of girlfriends.
Exactly, but remember they shared a comic for a while, right?
Yes, they did.
But you're right, yes. But he was happy-go-lucky. Now, I love the Miller stuff. Don't get me wrong. Love it. Love it, especially Born Again. But I do. There's part of me does kind of miss the old Daredevil a little bit. I kind of like that old Daredevil.
Well, the one great thing about Frank Miller is when he took the character, yes, he sent him through hell, but there was a reason. Like the reason that he's so angsty.
Yeah, that's fine. Right,
in the Elektra saga, it's because the woman of his dream comes back and she's an assassin.
I wasn't criticizing it.
He's all angsty in what was the other one? Oh God, I forgot. That other Frank Miller.
Well, it was Born Again. There's Year One.
Born Again.
Born Again's my favorite Daredevil story ever. But
he's very angsty in Born Again because Kingpin is destroying his life. But at the end of Born Again, he's smiling. He's hopeful at the end. That's the great thing about it.
But that's Daredevil. But Cracker Jack, though, is based on that Daredevil. And he's still different from Matt Murdock. What I love about him, Cracker Jack comes off as a jerk, a showboater, a total ass. And people think he's just right. He's just in it for the glory and all. And again, this is such a wonderful story. Issue number, I believe, was 5 of Astro City. Throughout this book, there's an old man that lives in this building. That is, of course, we find out. Spoiler a little bit. He's an alien who is doing reconnaissance for an alien invasion of Earth. Basically, sort of Astro City's versions of the Skrulls. And leading up to something that happens later. So this is the tiny. He's watching, and the thing is, this whole thing is from his perspective. It's not a story. It's not really. It's a story about Cracker Jack, but not so much. So this alien is observing humanity, and he thinks they're crap. But and he thinks that the worst of them is this show-off idiot with the costume. And then he finds out in this story, and I will tell a little bit about this story. He finds out that he sees the nobility that the Cracker Jack has that not everyone else sees. And he becomes really impressed with him. And like, he really is a hero.
And remember, he's going to decide if his race will invade
or not, based upon what his assessment of humanity.
Yeah, and he goes, for this day, Cracker Jack will decide the fate of humanity.
Yes.
I will follow him today, and whatever I decide will be based on my observation of this character.
So clever.
Without him knowing.
This is so brilliant.
Amazing. And at the end, just sorry about the spoiler.
We're going to spoiler it. What the hell?
He decides to spare Earth and to spare humanity because, like you mentioned, he sees the nobility of this character. But then he sees the cackling, moronic, horrible
crowd. He judges Earth by the crowd of idiots.
Yes, because he lives in
Again,
this like what you call it? It's
like
kind
a
of like a
tenement
boarding
or
house,
like a yeah. It was an old rundown slum or whatever.
right? A boarding house, and there's these old women that all they do is cackle all day and gossip all
Gossip
day. And he hates them, and then he decides to spare Earth, and then when he sees these old gossipy
and the
women,
way they
he
treat him and the way they talk bad about the guy who saved their lives.
decides
Cracker
to
Jack saves their lives and they talk shit about him.
he decides to kill her.
It's
Kill
great. He
the
goes, he basically, for lack of a better term, says, fuck them, and hits the button. Says, yep, let's invade this bitch. Let's wipe them out.
It's
It's
so
so
good.
good.
If I remember correctly, the thing is, Cracker Jack's secret identity was a guy that lived in the building, and he
Wasn't he an
pretended to
actor or
be.
something?
Yeah, he pretended to be this carefree, nice guy that was not very smart and never had any money. And these women were always gossiping about him, that he was an idiot, that he was a moron, that he had no future. And then when the building burns down, Cracker Jack is there in his costume, and he sees the building collapse, and he's, oh my god, my record collection. And
Yeah.
the gospel women go, oh, so if he lived in this building, he had to be this actor guy, right? So when they're interviewing, the gospel women go, oh yes, we always knew he was a wonderful man. We always knew he was a great kid. And when he sees how these women are such hypocrites,
This hypocrisy really drives him nuts.
right? Yeah, before
The
they were
alien,
talking
we mean.
bad about him, but yeah, when the alien sees that these gossipy women are all these hypocrites, and they were talking bad about him when they thought he was just an unemployed actor. But now that they find out that he's this superhero, they're trying to say, oh yeah, we always knew he was special, and he just hates humanity based on these stupid women. I love that issue.
So
wonderful comic.
Yeah, great character, just so much fun.
And also, now that you mentioned, they're following. Before we meet Cracker Jack, we met Jack in the Box. He's kind of like the Spider-Man type character.
Yeah.
And the thing, at one point, in this adventure that you mentioned, Cracker Jack kind of passes Jack in the Box, and he's mad because they have the same Jack in their name. You know, they have the
Yeah.
He goes, I should sue him for copyright infringement because he has my name. And the alien goes, how can he say that? Cracker Jack appeared before him, and Cracker Jack's father came even before both of them.
Right, because they think he's such an ass. It's hilarious.
Right. But there's something endearing about him. Just like that's why I mentioned Han Solo, because yeah, Han Solo could be a jerk, but you love Han Solo. Who doesn't love Han Solo? This is another great issue, and it again focuses on just a reporter in Astro City, and the first time we meet some of the Silver Age characters.
Well, we see, yes, and here's the thing: this character you're looking at here is Silver Agent. What's wonderful about him is really doesn't give you any info on them. They call him the poor doomed. They refer to him as the poor old doomed Silver Agent. You get to see him for a snippet. You get to see a little bit of the honor guard. I'm about to show you someone else in a minute. And this reporter, this whole story is really about this reporter witnessing an apocalyptic event of the superheroes and reporting on it. But it's just so well written. But the thing is, you don't know. Silver Agent, look at him right there. This is 1995, right? The second issue of Astro City of the miniseries. And you go, wow, he's pretty cool. You got to wait. I'm sorry to use the term, but I'm not almost 20 years, and I'm not doing it to aggravate. Seriously, this time, before you find out anything about him. Remember, we don't get his origin forever. We just see him. We see every now and then you get a little glimpse of Silver Agent. And you go, wow, he's cool, but you don't know. And till later.
One of the great things that he was able to do, it's the same thing that Chris Claremont did with the X-Men. He would introduce a subplot, and he will let that subplot just go on forever, and then boom, you would get the payoff. And now, since I don't know why Brian Michael Bendis changed everything, instead of having subplots, it's just comic books that go on forever, and it's just a bunch of blah 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 with nothing. Oh, the old soldier. Great
He's
character.
a character that I love. That Busey. This is another facet of the book I wanted to touch on again, like I did with Silver Agent. He whets your palate for it. You want to know about him, but you don't learn about him forever. You get one story with characters like Looney Leo there or Mock Turtle and stuff like that, and you get sometimes just a panel or two of a character you're very intrigued with and you never really learn about him. This is Old Soldier who pops up in issue number 2. And they say he just pops up when he's needed the most, different wars and different things like that. And just out of the blue, we don't know why. And guess what? None of us know. And there's never been a comic telling his story. It's kind of cool that way, really. So I just wanted to show him for a second.
He's kind of like the quality character that DC bought, Uncle Sam.
In a way, similar to Uncle Sam, absolutely. Yeah. Now let's go back to stories. Again, this is one of on your list here.
Wait. I have one that's really good. I don't know if you could show it. But,
well, yeah. Yeah. I don't have it loaded yet. Let me find it.
Astro City Special.
That was one of them. Let me get it.
Supersonic. Oh my God, so good.
So damn good.
So good. Yes.
Yeah, that one's been a while since I've read it, but again, even when I don't remember all of the story, it's funny. If I don't remember a lot of details, I'll still go, wow, I remember just reading that, being blown away. And I need to go back and reread that one. I actually have, of course, I'm going to be rereading that one again. Let me see if I find my picture of it. It is brilliant. So, give us a rundown of that one.
Well, basically, what I love about this issue is that this character, Supersonic, he's retired because he's old. And, even superheroes in Astro City, they get old, they have to retire, right?
Yes.
Much like what happened with Batman The Dark Knight Returns, he eventually retires because he's way too old. And he doesn't, and the Supersonic character doesn't have the same kind of like tragedy that motivates Batman. So, of course, he can retire with no guilt. But his Jim Gordon character, his friend in the police, tells him that there's this this gigantic being that's destroying town and only he can stop it. And he doesn't want to, not because he doesn't feel like a superhero, but he's an old man. He doesn't have it anymore. So he tries to stop it, and he causes more destruction than not. But it's just so wonderful to see this character almost trying to relive his glory days, and he's not sure he can do it. He only has one guy that truly believes in him, and he kind of wants to do it because of him. Wonderful story, but one of the great things about it is that it's this character that's past his prime, trying to relive his glory days. It's just a wonderful, wonderful issue. Reminds me of something. Mark Millar. He's a really weird writer because he has done some of my favorite comic books and some of my most hated comic books. Civil War, I hated with a passion. Kick-Ass, hate with a passion.
Yeah.
Nemesis, I'm very cold about, but I've loved some of the stuff he's done.
I love Starlight.
And that's exactly what I was going to talk about.
And Starlight and Huck. Yeah.
It's Starlight is exactly the same thing. It's a Flash Gordon character that's past his prime, that has to put on the costume again and be a hero again because they need him. And the same thing with Supersonic. He's way past his prime. He knows he can't do it, but they need him. So the hero never dies. The hero can retire, but the heroic spirit never dies. It's very similar to what Frank Miller did with Batman, but because it's Batman. When he puts on the costume again, boom, he's Batman again. He can do anything. He can beat Superman if he wants to. He doesn't, but he can. And that's just a wonderful thing to see how human his superhero characters are. They're not beyond human. They're not gods. They're very human. And that human quality is the one you can it stays with you. Stays with you. He's amazing.
Yeah. Also, it's incredible.
We've been talking about this comic book for 2 hours. God, I hope some of your listeners read it. Come on.
Oh, yes. Well, a lot of them already have, and those that have, some will.
We're telling you these comic books.
Yeah. Yep. And we're not spoiling it, so we're not really blowing that much for you. But here's another great story that just blew me away, and I know it's on your list here.
Yes, of course.
This guy can
So
listen,
good.
let
So
this
good.
soak in a little bit. This is a doll, a robot,
It is a Barbie doll.
and you feel
For,
this
for
will
all
this this story gets into your heart and soul and rips you to pieces. A
destroys you.
fucking doll, man. It's
Beauty.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
Beauty.
and the thing, beauty, and the thing that I have to say about this character is we saw her in a past issue with as part of the Honor Guard, the Justice League, and you see her and you go, "Oh my God, why is there a Barbie doll in the Honor Guard? Why is
What
there
the
a
hell is that?
Barbie doll in the
Unbelievable.
Justice League?" If you want, she would be the Vision or the Red Tornado of
Sort of, yes. Isn't
the
it great
girl.
how he manages to make them different enough?
Yes, because
Brilliant.
basically it's an android. But when you see story, which is beautiful, you saw the character. It took what 10 years for you to find out
Yeah.
the origin of the character,
Right.
and it's basically this. She was created by the daughter of a criminal genius who creates robots. And she creates this character, but to show his father, look, Dad, I'm just as smart as you. His father, instead of complimenting her for creating, an android with artificial intelligence, he just acts with total disdain because she created a toy. And it's so sad because all Beauty wants to know is find out where she came from and who her creator is. But much like in this beautiful movie called Toy Story 2, where what's the name of the doll? The cowgirl doll in Toy Story.
Jesse.
Just
I love that
like
movie.
when Jessie gets turned away by her owner, the same thing happens to Beauty. She gets just turned away by her creator, and it's just the saddest thing. That ending just destroys your heart. Please, you gotta read this. I know we spoiled it a little bit, but trust us. Listening to us talk about it is not the same as reading every line, every beautiful poetic line that Kurt Busiek wrote. It's a beautiful issue. Beautiful.
Again, that's true genius when he can make you fall in love with us and be really, really touched by a story about a damn automaton.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's a great one. What's another one you got on there?
Let me see. I of course got. Let's see. This is really, really, really. Oh, of course, the I do believe it's number 2, Astro City regular series. Number 2, focus on Astra of the first
family. Oh yeah, I don't know if
that's where we really focus on the character.
I'll find the cover in a second, but yes.
The cute thing about this story is this girl.
Oh God, yeah.
She lives surrounded by these amazing beings that have this great power. She has superpowers. She goes in these great adventures. She's kind of like the Human Torch of the first family.
Isn't she kind of Franklin Richards, or that was one of the other kids?
Well, the thing is, she has only one power. She doesn't have multiple powers.
Right. That's true.
He fools around with a lot of other powers and a lot of their but she's kind of the Human Torch or the Franklin Richards, but she's surrounded by amazing things all her life. But she's part of these amazing adventures. Her parents actually allow her to be part of the adventure. She's not always at home, and all she wants to do is be normal. All she wants to do is play hopscotch with the kids outside. She runs away just so she can feel normal for the day. And the wonderful thing is when she runs away, to play with kids her own age and to be a kid, her parents and her entire family think she's been kidnapped. And they go nuts. And they go all over the world trying to find her. And her father is Rex. He's the thing of the family.
Yes.
And it's wonderful to see him because he's kind of like this just gentle giant, this gentle brute, much like Ben Grimm. But when you mess with his family, just be careful. And you just see the rage in his eyes that someone may have done something with the most precious thing he has, and it's his daughter. Wonderful issues. 2 issues, number 2 and 3 of the regular series. Just
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah. Great stuff. Again, they were just able to do that. So many things. I think I was touching on earlier. I think a lot of you out there may or may not be familiar with Philip Jose Farmer. No, I'm not talking about the hardcore stuff. I'm talking about Tarzan Alive or Doc Savage's Apocalyptic Life, his Walt Newton stuff, where it's sort of mixed a hodgepodge of all the most famous fictional characters together in there, like a shared universe type thing. Some of that sort of in here, but also I do believe Busiek. We find out way later in Astro City, for example, that one of the first heroes was Air Ace, which reminded me of Wild Cards.
Oh yeah,
Jet
what was
Boy.
it? Jet Boy, based on Air Boy.
Yeah, so you got a lot of things like that in here. Where,
by the way, now that you remember, another Michael being a bastard to me.
Oh well, everyone loves those stories.
You mentioned Air Ace, who's based on Air Boy.
Oh, you're really going to go there? Not that I remember because it didn't happen.
Who's based on Air Boy, a character who drove a plane back in World War II. Chuck Dixon, one of my favorite Batman writers, wrote the Air Boy comic book. I just decided to give it a try. Read Air Boy, loved it, and because nobody was into that series, I was able to get a whole run of Air Boy really cheap. And of course, your good friend Claude, were able to buy a bunch of issues.
I thought it was Chris.
Chris, Claude, and you were able to buy a bunch of issues of Air Boy.
I had nothing to do with it.
And then, burn them in front of me. While toasting
I don't burn comic books.
While toasting some marshmallows.
I don't believe in burning comic books, folks. So I don't know what he's talking about.
Toasted marshmallows over an open flame that was powered by Air Boy comic books.
In our defense, we were hungry.
These are my friends, people. These are my friends.
We didn't burn your comics, though, did we?
But you burned comic books in front of me. Comic books that I wanted. Comic books that I loved.
You had those, didn't you? Yeah.
Yes, I had them. But still,
they weren't yours.
I do not forgive. Do not forgive.
Well, whoever did that, I don't think it was a big deal because whoever that was, I mean, they're not like they burned your comics,
I'm not happy with it.
But it was Air Boy. Anyway, so yeah, I was just mentioning Air Ace because I forgot to mention it earlier. But so look, everyone, we've done it been a couple hours. Don't want to keep you all too long because you could just because there's no way to end it. There's no way to end it. There's so much. There's so many stories you can go into for Astro City.
Well, we haven't even talked about what was it? Character Steeljack.
Oh yeah, Steeljack. Okay, let's do Steeljack in the I got it.
Number 15 or so. There's a bunch of them.
As you can see, folks, so good. This is a brilliant multi-part story. Now, again, as we said, a lot of the greater Astro stories are short. This, however, is a multi-issue saga called Tarnished Angel.
The problem with this,
fantastic, or it was later called that in the trade.
The problem with this is that it's the most irregular multi-part saga.
Took forever.
It was like 2 issues came out,
and then 5 years later, another one would come out.
Yeah, like a year later, another 2 issues, another year. It just took forever. So the thing is, like, you would be so happy to get a new issue. You would have to go back, read the first few, then read the new one, and then you'd be happy. And then you're waiting for it, and it never came. And then 5 months later, you get another issue. You gotta go back. But this whole saga was so enjoyable because the whole thing is he's just a regular bad guy, a regular criminal in Astro City. He wants powers to be able to be a better villain, and the powers he gets are amazing. You know, he gets a steel covering all over his body, and sure, it works very well when he's a villain. He's not the smartest villain. He always gets caught. He's never strategist, master strategist. He's more of a whatchamacallit, a minion. He always works for a smarter villain, like a Juggernaut or a Blob or one of those characters, right? So basically, they send him to jail, and now he comes out an old man, and he can't hide that he's an ex-con. So his life is, instead of being full with new possibilities, he has no life anymore because nobody wants to hire him. The few people that hire him, he can't work at like a diner, because if he works as a dishwasher, he can break the dishes because his hands are so tough. Nobody wants to be served by a guy that looks like that. So he has this just no future ahead of him, and you feel his pain. You feel just how awful he has it, and he gets involved in this whole conspiracy that's going on in Astro City. That is wonderful. We're not going to spoil it, but it's beautiful. It's one of the best sagas ever. In fact, one of the things that I'm doing now, I'm rereading a bunch of old comic books just for fun, because there's nothing new coming out that's worth reading. There's some good stuff. Believe it or not, the Deceased stuff by Tom Taylor is really fun, and I really enjoyed the Green Lantern by Grant Morrison. But there's not a lot of really good stuff. In fact, I'm reading the Tom King Batman series, and it's oh my god.
Ugh.
Yeah. It's just,
I've heard. I've heard it's terrible.
Bruce Wayne wanted to commit suicide. Yeah, right. Sure.
Sure.
No, Batman swears on his parents' grave that he will avenge their deaths. He would never commit suicide, but it's a whole different thing. So,
yeah,
I've been inspired by this little podcast that we're doing here, by the little show that we're doing here. I'm gonna reread every Astro City now.
Me
because
too.
now I can do it like in one sitting, just one after the other, and these deserve to be reread over and over, because much like Watchmen, you can always find something new when you reread them. That's one of the things that I love about Watchmen. You can reread Watchmen over and over and over, and you never get bored because you can always find something new. It's not superficial storytelling. It's very profound, very complex, very deep storytelling. And that's what Busiek manages to do in most of his comic books when he wants to, because, I love me some Avengers, but that's just hero versus villain, and it's wonderful, but it's just hero versus villain, and it works perfect. With Thunderbolts, it's the same. The one great thing about the Thunderbolts that he did that was very complex is that these villains are so happy being villains, and they hate the heroes because the heroes keep putting them in jail. But once they the shoes on the other foot, and they see the other side of it, when they're being treated with respect and with admiration, because now instead of being detested for villains, they're admired for being heroes. You get characters like Atlas, who used to be like Goliath, and before that, Power Man. He goes, "Oh my God, I enjoy being respected." And Beetle was punching back for every superhero. They write him with such pathos. He goes, "Oh my God, I don't want to be a villain anymore." Spider-Man, who has beaten me up so many times, now treats me with respect because he thinks I'm a hero. People look at me different. I want to be a hero. I want to be different. I want to change my life. I love that about Thunderbolts. That could have been such a simple story, and it became so much powerful because of the character and how we got to know them. Same thing is with Astro City, that in every issue, there's not one issue that it's a letdown. Just everyone is great. Let me see if I can see another amazing issue. Well, Let's see. There's a few here that of the latest series that I enjoy. There was a character that we saw like for a half a second, the living nightmare,
Living Nightmare Hulk.
and he's the Hulk or Solomon Grundy. Or and the great thing about here is how he fleshes him out and makes him such a great character. Or here where we see the story of Quarrel, who's kind of like your Hawkeye or Green Arrow character.
Yeah.
And she's a hero, but her father was a villain.
Yes.
And just how she's trying to clean up the name. So that's why she reminds me a little bit of Hawkeye, who started out as one thing and became something else.
Well, she's also
Green Arrow.
Well, remember,
who started as one thing and became something else.
What's interesting about that is, of course, she's in a relationship with Crackerjack. So she's sort of like, that's sort of like Daredevil, Black Widow.
Daredevil,
and she has
Black Widow,
a past like Black Widow.
Or Dino Lance and
which means he's so brilliant about making
Black Canary and Green Arrow.
Yes,
as well?
Yeah, exactly. He could do all of that, get all those elements together. So there's not exactly this, not just a knockoff. Knockoffs can be fine, like when you're talking about Supreme or 1963. But for this is so nuanced, and there's so many varying aspects to these characters. They're not one thing.
He gets it down to the archetype.
They're archetypes for sure, but they're a mismatch in a good way.
Yeah, but he uses everything he knows about comic book history to create their backgrounds. So every character kind of represents multiple characters, but their archetype. He goes, "Oh, this is the swashbuckling hero, like Daredevil, like Nightcrawler. This is the warrior woman, like Wonder Woman, like Black Widow." And he can do that.
Yep, it's amazing. It's brilliant
with all these characters. And one of the cool things about this, when we see the Quarrel story, is not only do we get to know her, we get to see her kind of toxic relationship with Crackerjack, which is really fun because he kind of reminds her of her dad. She loved her dad, but he was, not a nice guy. And Crackerjack he's a noble guy, but his ego is out of control. So
it's fascinating. That was a good story.
So many great stories. And also he in the latest in the most recent iteration of Astro City, he had a few really weird stories, but he goes, "Oh my god, only he can make them work." He got the talking gorilla drummer sticks.
Yeah,
great stuff. That was a fun story.
I love the dog one. I love the one with the dog.
Yeah, I got it right here.
The dog. I gotta find that. I can put that cover, one of the covers up there. Tell him about the dog story. That was so good. And that was one of the later ones too.
It's a regular dog who, like, through a magical amulet, gets superpowers, and he becomes kind of like Crypto or Hoppy, the Marvel Bunny, or many of those like anthropomorphic superpowered animals, or like what was it? In DC, it was the Legion of Super Pets. And in Marvel, they had the Pet Avengers. Every era has always had like this fascination with superpowered pets, and I never liked them because I'm not a pet person. I really just have no empathy for pets. I'm so sorry. I know people hate me for this, but
there he is, the dog. The story was great though.
It's a G-Dog, right?
Yeah, I forget what he was called now.
G-Dog.
I mean, and this was toward the end. A lot of people thought that some of the stories weren't quite up there. I'm gonna tell you of this. By the way, I'm telling everyone this is what we're talking about here. Is in 2013. Just let's give you a little recap. After many years of being gone, what we were talking about, some of these other stories.
It is G-Dog.
Right there. There you go. In between the first regular series of 22 issues. And after that, there were a bunch of mini series that we were in specials that we were talking about, a few of those just now. Then in 2013, DC Vertigo took over and started giving it a regular series from 2013 to 2018. There were 52 issues. What is it with that number with 52? But anyway, I'll never forget early on with that when they started coming out. I was so used to Astro City, whether it was one of the miniseries books or the regular ones, are not taking forever all the time. When it was on a regular schedule and I was walking in and getting it fairly monthly with the occasional drop back, I couldn't believe it. I was very happy, but I couldn't believe it.
It was kind of freaky. It
was freaky.
So
I love that cover.
His Legion.
I love that cover. That's so great. Oh my god!
It feels like there was like a Streaky the Super Cat and Beppo the Super Monkey and Comet the Super Horse.
And the story works. See there, everyone. Look, that's what we're talking about with Astro City. He takes the most ludicrous, ridiculous, funny book concepts. I don't care. It's a Silver Ager, it's a Bronze Ager, and he makes it work. And he makes it smart. And he makes it. I mean, you feel it, and it feels. You buy into it. You don't have to be reading Watchmen. I love Watchmen. You don't have to really be reading Watchmen to take it seriously. You'll still you'll just get into it, and you will take it seriously in a sense because it's so friggin' well done. That's genius, in my opinion. There's dark. Oh yeah, that was a pretty good one. That was a weird.
That was a Blue Knight. Yes.
Now, one thing. See, Astro City goes all over time. Was. And it takes place in many different eras. And that one took place sort of like in the 70s. Talked about a very, very scary time in Astro City's history, a very dark time.
What I like about it's Astro City Local Heroes #5. What I like about the issue is that it focuses on the kind of Angel of Vengeance type superhero, much like Vigilante for DC or Punisher for Marvel. But the thing is, it doesn't dumb it down. It's all, there's a background, there's a reason, there's the way he affects people. It doesn't focus on the character. He's going to protect a guy who's kind of like a DA. And so it's always very interesting. And also one thing that I have to say, I love Astro City. I'm going to reread it now. But out of all the stories, the one that I enjoyed the least was Astro City, The Dark Age. For some reason, I just never connected with these books. It was a very long, multi-part story. It was told in, I believe, 3 or 4 different miniseries. So it was like part 1 was 4 issues, part 2 was another 4 issues, part 3 was another 4 issues, similar to what Grant Morrison did with 7 Soldiers. And for some reason, I did just never connected with it. It could be one of 2 things. It could be that it took forever to come out, and I have to sit down. I have to sit down and read it in one sitting to get the full scope and get the full punch. And also, I think one of the things that really hurt me or hurt the enjoyment of these issues was that somewhere along the line I read that Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross were preparing to do a sequel to Marvels that was going to take place during the Bronze Age of Marvel comic books, during like the 70s and early 80s, focused on a darker aspect of Marvel comics, right? For some reason, the higher-ups in Marvel did not approve this story. I don't know why. Chuck Dixon finally made a story similar to that. I think it was called Marvel's Code of Vengeance or something like that. I forgot the name of it, but it was Code of something.
You talking about Child's Play?
No.
Which story did they
Astro City: The Dark Age was going to be the sequel to Marvel. But but Marvel did not.
I'm sorry, I misheard you because it was.
Yes.
By the way, Claude, we did do G-Dog. We just got through talking about him. But go ahead.
So basically, what happened was that I'm reading this story, and all I can think about is this could have been with the Marvel heroes. This could have been with the Marvel heroes. So instead of concentrating on what I'm reading, letting the story get to me, all I'm thinking is, this could have happened in the Marvel universe. This could have happened in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
So that's what put a barrier between me and my enjoyment and total joy of the story. So that was my fault. That was Kurt Busiek's fault. So what, I'm going to reread it again and see if I can like
Yeah,
connect with
fair
it.
enough. Fair enough. It was really good. Yeah. But yeah, it was not anywhere near my favorite either. But it was, and like you said, it takes forever to freaking come out. And it kind of messes you up a little bit. So it's always good to go back and reread it. Not and after that, or I think it was after that, we finally
Yeah,
find out what
there we
happens
go.
to the poor doomed Silver Agent.
This is it. Marvel's Code of Honor.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah.
That was basically like Chuck Dixon took the notes or the idea of what Busiek and Alex Ross wanted to do for a sequel to Marvels, and they did this book. And I was about to buy it for two reasons, because it was, the planned sequel to Marvels, and it was also written by Chuck Dixon, who's one of my favorite writers. And as I was about to buy it, I was at a comic book store here in Mexico, and the girl that was charging, he goes, "Why are you buying that?" He goes, "Oh, it's the sequel to Marvels. I'm a big fan of Chuck Dixon." He goes, "But it's awful."
Uh-huh.
I had like a Mike flashback of that movie.
I don't know what you're talking about.
She was so honest. That's what you said to me when I was about to buy pick number 2. He goes, "You're buying that? It's awful." I'm like, what? I haven't read number 1. That's what you shouldn't. It's a horrible, horrible comic book. You bastard.
I would never do such a thing.
So this girl said this to me, so I didn't get Code of Honor, so I haven't read it. But if you see, look, it's also based on an African American cop, and his brother is kind of like a criminal and stuff like that. Much like what they did with Marvel's The Dark Age, which is why I want to read Code of Honor and reread, of course, Dark Age, and just see what's up with that.
Yeah. No, I got you. Hey, I hear you.
Also, and I know it's this show is taking forever, but just before we leave, one thing that I have to say is, I hope you give Silver Age. I hope you give Astro City a try. I don't know if you're gonna believe everything Mike and I are saying, but please give it a chance. At least get the first mini series, Life in the Big City.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna love it. I mean, if you don't love anything else, those 6 issues you're gonna love. But also, I want to recommend something else. I don't know if you read it, Mike. It's called Common Grounds, and it's a comic book so inspired on Astro City. It's not even funny, but it's not inspired in a bad way. It's inspired in a good way.
Okay.
Basically, in this world, it's a world filled with superheroes, just like Astro City, just like the Marvel Universe, just like the DC Universe. But the thing is, in this universe, there's a coffee shop called Common Grounds, right? Much like, Starbucks or Panera or whatever. And the thing is, both heroes and villains have made a pact. They can kill each other outside, but inside, they're on common ground. They will behave civilly, with civility. And it's such wonderful issues, because they don't focus on the superhero battles. They focus on the personality and the lives of the heroes and the villains, and it's wonderful. There's so many great issues. The art is great because it's by different artists in every issue. So sometimes you get really good artists.
This is new.
And no, this is very, very, very old. It's, I don't know, like 2002, 2004, something like that. And the thing is, it's so good because, believe it or not, I read about it in Wizard when it was going by a different name, Holy Crawlers, but it came out as Common Grounds. And there's this issue that is so great. A hero and a villain are in the toilet of this of Common Grounds, right? They're like on different stalls, right? And they go, "Hey, is that you, Mind Midget?" And they start talking while they're taking a dump. And like the villain is saying, "Well, I am your arch nemesis." And he goes, "No, you're not." And they're talking about just guy talk. And they're a hero and a villain sitting in the bathroom, taking a dump, just talking like normal people. And I thought that this is so good. It's so interesting. And then there's another issue where a guy comes out of the coffee shop and he's a guy who's homeless, living in a box outside one of the coffee shops. And they start talking. It turns out they were enemies way back when one was a hero and one was a villain. So of course, throughout the story, you assume the guy who's living in the box is the villain, and the guy who has, you know, a good job and has a, what you call it, a successful business is the hero. And there's a little twist there that I'm probably ruined, but it's such beautiful storytelling that it's like there's like 3 or 4 stories per issue. It's only 6 issues. You can read it just like that. I loved it. I recommended it to a friend here in Mexico. He read it. He said he loved them. So I recommend them to you. And you can. It's so inspired on Astro City. It's not even funny. And also, of course, I gotta recommend, because I always recommend this comic book. It's the Justice Society. Came out in the 90s by Mike Parabek did the art. Len Strosinski, I can never say his last name. He wrote it. Mark, you've read them. Only 10 issues.
Great comic.
It's a wonderful comic book. Because, again, it focuses on the heroes. You get to see the importance of the Golden Age heroes. You get to see their friendship, their camaraderie, how they work together, how they have fun being superheroes. It's not as complex. It's not as deep as Astro City, but it's just as fun, because just like you said, yes, there's a place, and there's for comic books like Watchmen and Miracle Man that are deconstructing superheroes. There's a place for Born Again and the Elektra Saga by Frank Miller and Batman Born Again. There are all these angst-driven, dark and grim and gritty stories. Yes, there's a place for them, but there's also a place for hopeful stories, for stories that remind us why we read superhero comic books. You know, to have a good ending, and where these characters act like friends. You know, it's stories where you want to, you know, stories that are set in worlds where you want to escape to, not escape from. I remember there's this comic book by Alan Moore called Judgment Day, and it's basically that, you know, where this character acquires this book that has the whole history of the world, and he manages to turn the world into this dark, grim, gritty, horrible place where everybody wants to escape away from, not to. And I remember the greatest comic books that I remember from my childhood, you know, the Legion of Superheroes, Batman and the Outsiders, the New Teen Titans. I wanted to be part of that world. And then you read something like Spawn, and you're like, oh my God, I would never want to live in this place ever. It's all composed of darkness and crime-ridden alleys.
That's right.
Who wants to live there, you know? So that's what I love about these comic books like Astro City, this Justice Society, or Common Grounds. They're just wonderful worlds. It's like, I forget where I read this, but some writer was saying, you know, one of the things that I love about the Legion of Superheroes is that they have a hopeful, wonderful future.
Yes.
And if you look
very
at
Star Trek.
if you look at every other future in the 70s comic book, they're all dark and apocalyptic and just filled with radiation and monsters and mutants. And the wonderful thing about the Legion of Superheroes, you go to that future and it's hopeful. You know, you want to be there. You want to be part of that clubhouse. You want to be part of those heroes. And even when they're fighting Darkseid in the Great Darkness Saga, sorry for the spoiler, but when they're fighting Darkseid, there's still hope, because it's the Legion, and they can never lose hope. You know, no matter who they're
read
fighting.
that. Yeah, loved it. Yeah, it's great. No, you're right, man. It's Legion is basically DC's Star Trek. I mean, real Trek, not the modern, horrible, ugly stuff. The hopeful stuff, you know.
And that's the thing about Astro City. You know, it's shows you a wonderful, wonderful world. It reminds me of what a New York under Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, where you would look out the window and you would see Spider-Man swinging, and the Fantastic Car flying by, and Thor fighting Loki, or the Absorbing Man. It was a world full of wonderful possibilities, and that's what you get with Astro City. Every
right.
issue,
That's right, buddy.
wonderful. That this issue where we meet the astronaut, the hero that gives his life, and the city named after him. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
Really, so amazing. Again, yes, this is and it's issue number 41 of the Vertigo series, but that made it was 100 overall. And man, again, he just found a new way to amaze us with the story, and like now we know why this is called Astro City. It's just incredible stuff.
It is. I know a lot of you are still buying comic books. Do not waste your time and your money with most of the things that are being published right now by DC.
No one's buying any of that new crap.
They're awful.
They're buying crowdfunded books, but they're not buying the big two crap.
Mark Miller is doing some wonderful stuff at Image. Saga by Brian K. Vaughan is just beautiful. And just Astro City, you can get all these 100 and so issues and just read them in one sitting, and they're just beautiful. They're beautiful. And you will not be, you will be very glad. You will not be unhappy with them, because sometimes it happens to me. I remember one time, and it was so silly. I'd never read Miracle Man, but I had read some stuff by Alan Moore. I read Swamp Thing. I read Watchmen. And then one time I go into a comic book shop, and I see the first 2 volumes of Miracle Man in trade paperback. Right? It was I Dream of Flying and Red King Syndrome. So I look at him and go, I'm not so sure. I don't like that costume. I don't like the character. I don't know the character. But it's by Alan Moore. Should I get it? Should I know it's Alan Davis is drawing it? Should I get it? Should I not get it? I said, it's Alan Moore. I'm gonna trust, and I got him. I had them in my house for like 2 weeks or like a week because I was so afraid of reading them. What if I read them and I regret it? What if I read them and I just threw my money away? I opened the first issue. I read the first pages, and I was just. I finished reading both volumes in like, I don't know, 2 hours or something like that.
Well, that's great stuff, man.
God, this is the most amazing comic book I've ever read in my life. I love it. It's amazing. Why did I not know this existed? And it was just the wait for number 3, Olympus, it took forever. Just took forever. So when I finally got it, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And that's the thing with Astro City. When I picked up that Miracle Man, I don't think I knew you, Mike, back then. So I had no one to guide me, no one to tell me. But now you guys have our experience. If you're watching this show, you have some trust in Mike. God knows why. And please trust me.
20 times over, in fact.
I know most of you don't know me, but I have really, really, really good taste in comic books. Really do.
He does, but once in a while he does like some garbage that I have to set him on. For the most part, I mostly approve of. Don't I mostly approve of your likes? And
yes,
there are a couple things you're not supposed to like, but
And sometimes I've made you like stuff that you don't even give a chance to. I mean, that Justice Society that I showed by
great book. I love it. You showed me that one, yeah.
You did not give it a chance when it came out, and I begged you to read it, and you took forever, but you read it. You said, "Hey, you're right." I'm like, "Damn." Also,
Broken Clock, yeah.
Carl Kessel's run on Daredevil. You, of course, did not want to get it. I told you that you should read it. You read it. You said, "Hey, it's pretty good." It was very brief, but it was very, very good.
I don't even know who he's talking about. Everyone, he's got these weird delusions, So.
You have no memory. That's your problem. I have way too much memory. I remember everything. So that's my problem.
Well,
A lot of people say that having a good memory it's a good thing. It's a horrible thing because when you remember every slight everybody has ever done to you. So I remember every bastard
yeah.
thing my wife has ever done to me. I remember every stupid thing Claude ever did to me as well. Yes, I remember that. I know he's listening.
Just remember, everyone, this is coming from someone who can't even stay in his own dimension. He like disappears into other dimensions sometimes. You'll be sitting there talking to him, and he will disappear into another dimension, which has happened to me on many occasions, if you remember that. But you don't remember that, do you?
It's like let's say that Mike would pass by a Phantom Zone projection area, and he would stay in the car, and I, for some reason, would be shunted to the Phantom Zone, where he would not be able to hear me for an hour. Because
and that's my fault somehow. That's my fault somehow.
He and I would drive an hour from New Orleans to Baton Rouge to see Claude and Chris, so we could hang out. And sometimes I would just be shunted for an hour to the Phantom Zone.
I tried to get you out as fast as I could. You know that.
And this was before smartphones. So for 1 hour, he would ignore me in the car, and I had nothing to do.
Because you were in another dimension. I couldn't talk. I couldn't see you or hear you.
I really hate you. I mean,
like it's my fault. Like I control dimensions or something.
Let us be really clear. I do hate you. Let's not forget when you and your cronies
look at Claude.
Would not let me get out of the car, and you would drive past my house 5 or 6 times saying, "Where's your house? I can't find it. I don't know where you have." And I was in the back seat. You guys would not let me out. You guys would not let me out of the car, and would just pass. It would be, I don't know, 12 at night. I was very tired, wanted to sleep, and just passing by my. Where's your house? I don't see your house. Do you guys see his house? I don't see his house. It disappeared. It's my fault. That your house was dimensionally unstable. Driving around for an hour. Not an hour. Trying to find. We're passing by my house 5 or 6 times. We don't see your house. What does it look like? Oh, we just let me turn around. By the way, Claude says I have an extra copy of that book if somebody has a spare $20. So I hate you. I really do. I hate you. I mean, both. I think it's very nice of him to make the offer. I hate you both. I remember. It's people say having a photographic memory must be wonderful. No, it's not. You remember every thing everybody has ever done to you. You know what, dude? We need to do some Legion talk about it. You want to do some more Astro City where we talk about a whole issue? Sure. And that way we can go look. We'll set up front. Look, if you haven't read this yet, you need to read it. But we're going to talk about it because I didn't want to do that as much tonight because I wanted to cover a lot. And I think we covered pretty good. Your memory was very useful in that because you remember what you read and everything like that. I mean, your memory's worth way more than $20. So, I'm gonna kill you. I swear, I will. It's within my power. To be fair, your house looked exactly like every other house on the block. I want to kill you too. Just shut up. Again, see, isn't that terrible, folks? I get blamed for transdimensional physics. That I can't control. You can read a lot of the things that people are putting on. Of course, you have to read Claude's moronic thing. No one else is writing anything except Larry. He wrote 1947. I don't know what he means by that. Some jackass picked our good buddy Larry. By the way, Larry Goodrich, he was an excellent artist and a good friend. Someone was picking on him one time, and because he likes older stuff, like Larry and like me and like a lot of us, and he's a very, by the way, an expert on Golden Age comics, I might add. But he and someone said, "Oh yeah, he doesn't like anything that wasn't printed before 1947," which is they say that about you if you happen to like old stuff, which is crap. So that's just what that means, and he's just no. He's got a good sense of humor about it, but he does. He loves the Golden Age stuff, and he likes older stuff. He don't, he likes Astro City. No, good. Well, you're gonna like what you're gonna like, but good stuff is good stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, that guy was an arse anyway, and I wouldn't give $20 for him. I'm gonna kill
You
you.
know.
I swear, I will. By the way, that miniseries, The Golden Age. Talking about The Golden Age.
Yeah,
By
that was a good one.
oh my god,
Yeah,
that was so good.
we'll do
And,
that
and
soon.
And what's great about that story is that yes, it is a dark story, but it has a hopeful ending, and that's one of the things that I enjoy. You can go through the darkness as long as there's light at the end of the tunnel, which is one of the things that I'm really against with Garth Ennis. All his stories are
Nihilism.
darkness.
Yeah.
Darkness upon darkness. One great story that he has is when one of his characters, Hitman, who's kind of like DC's version of Punisher, he gets to meet Superman one day, and it's so weird because the way Garth Ennis writes Superman, he writes him hopeful, he writes him honest, he writes him wonderful, and the whole story is Superman blaming himself because he was not super enough to save someone. Someone died, and he feels guilty because he saved 5 people, and so many others that could have been destroyed in the catastrophe, because it was like what was it I forget what you call it, like one of those things that go out on space, like a space
shuttle.
Space shuttle, yeah. He saved the space shuttle. He saved all the astronauts, and he saved people from if the space shuttle would have fallen to Earth, he could have destroyed a lot of people. He saved everybody, but he was not able to save the captain, and he blamed himself for that. And Hitman goes, "Hey, dude, take it easy. You can't save everybody. You're Superman, but even Superman can't save everybody. Don't blame yourself. You saved so many other people. Think of the people you saved." And I thought that was just a wonderful story.
Yeah, and this is usually a potch though. Well, everyone, we've been here almost about the 3, and again, we barely touched the tip of the iceberg. That tells you something right there, how deep and great this comic is. And if we'd gone too in depth with anything, we would have never got anywhere. But I wanted to cover a little bit of some of the better elements of Astro City. I hope we did that to satisfaction. It's really tough to do that with we could have. Yeah, I don't know. It would take longer, and even 4 hours wouldn't cover it. So I'm gonna kind of put the brakes on it here.
3 hours later.
Yeah, but we got there in the end. I want to thank everyone who did pop in and out of here, all my good friends, the people who are still with us. It looks like Claude and Larry are still here. RR, if you're still here, my good friend, thank you. Another new friend, my new friend RR, my new friend Paulie with Latino Slant. Please go subscribe to his great YouTube page. My beautiful, wonderful, amazing friend Wonder Woman, who I don't think she's here right now, but she did pop in. Very nice of her. I love you. Thank you. Let's see who else was here. Good buddy Problem Being, who had to run out. RR, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate that. And a few others. Anyone I missed? Trent, by the way. And then there's some others who did, and I'm sorry if I'm forgetting your names, but you're not here yet, and you're not here anyway, so I don't know. But we do have some nice people pop in. We're just getting started. I hope you all subscribed. I hope you click like for me. Even if you didn't like it, just lie and say you liked it. It won't hurt you. Got some likes. Doesn't matter. We're just getting started. This is a whole new transition from BTR for me. But hey, thank you, R. I appreciate that.
Can I ask all your listeners a favor? Now, this is a favor. You don't have to do it, but if you do it, I would really, 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 really appreciate it. Much like Mike, I also have a channel on YouTube.
Sure.
It's called Comic Mania. Now, I have very little subscribers because I had one channel and I had a bunch of subscribers, and then YouTube closed that channel. Long story. And I had to open a new channel, right?
Yeah.
So now, of course, I announced on my page and everywhere that on this new channel, not everybody has subscribed. Now, I can't monetize my channel if I don't get at least 1,000 subscribers. I'm like, I don't know, 80 people away from getting 1,000. So
Comics Mania. No, please go do it. Yeah, no,
You
it's
do
good.
not have to listen to the show because it's in Spanish, so maybe a lot of you won't get it. But if you could just do me this just wonderful, wonderful favor of subscribing to the channel, I would appreciate it. It's called Comic Mania MX, MX for Mexico. It's Comic Mania MX. Just type that, you'll find it. It's
Comic Mania. I'm seeing
it's just
some.
yeah. Just please subscribe to the channel. I would really, really appreciate it. You don't have to listen to the shows, but if you speak Spanish or you know anybody that speaks Spanish, please
MX?
do. MX, because
Oh,
Mexico,
okay, I found it. I'm gonna put a link in there.
Thank you. Comic Mania MX, and there's a bunch of shows.
I just subscribed.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
You gotta subscribe. You gotta subscribe to me now too.
Of course, I will.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share this. I'm going to share this with my listeners because, here in Mexico, a lot of people are bilingual because they have to be. Because comic books, not every comic book is translated into Spanish. Oh, by the way,
sometimes it takes these streams to go up on actually make it on like 8 hours later sometimes, but it'll go up later.
Yeah,
in other words, takes. Yeah.
By the way, and P.S. I remember for a long time, you always wanted to have every version of Watchmen, and I know you have the French version.
Yeah, most of them, yeah. German.
You have the Italian version, if I do remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. French.
You have the French. You have
no,
the
Italian. I have French and German.
French and German. You have, of course, the English version. You know what you don't have? The Spanish version. I'm going to get that for you.
Thank you. I'd love to have that. Add to my collection.
The cover is
not a Gibbons cover.
Yes, it is, but it's like the one where they're just all standing, like the hero, they're not the Watchmen, but the modern heroes are just standing around like posing. It's all like Gibbons, but it's all yellow, so it just looks awful. Just looks disgusting.
Well, you just picked up 2 subs. My good friend RR went and subbed for you there. Thank you, RR.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, buddy. And thank you all for being here. We're going to cut this one off, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you didn't, we understand. But we did. I had a good time. So if you didn't, I care that you did. I hope you did, but I can't really be nothing. I can't force you to have had a good time. Anyone listening on the downloads later, I hope you had a good time as well. And again, if you didn't, blame me, or you could blame that strange guy who is keeps disappearing into other dimensions and everything. It's just it's just a thing. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you. And we are off. Almost off.